Chapter 732. In the sacred royal city, everyone was discussing about a single matter: the battle that happened in the royal sacred sect. The royal sacred sect used the betrayal of the battle sword faction as an excuse, wanting to completely eradicate the battle sword faction. The Medicine Sovereign Valley came to the royal sacred sect's aid, challenging the hegemons of the world, resulting in a heaven-shaking battle. This battle happened in the headquarters of the royal sacred sect. It wasn't the same as the battle on the sacred battle platform, where the sacred emperor fought against the medicine sovereign. As for the other factions, they formed the 10 Ferocious Grand Formation to deal with the experts from the Medicine Sovereign Valley, as well as the puppets. The Medicine Sovereign Valley was unable to hold on any longer. Qin Wentian suddenly erupted with power. Brandishing the demon sword in his hand, he transformed into a god of war, destroying the Grand Formation with a single slash, using the demon sword to slaughter over 1,000 experts. Ultimately, the experts of the royal sacred sect chose to temporarily retreat. That Qin Wentian, who was rumored to have been abandoned by the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor because of his personality or talent, once again displayed his brilliance to the world. In the entire royal sacred region, there was no second person as dazzling as him. After the great battle ended, both sides suffered heavy casualties. The Medicine Sovereign Valley finally brought the members of the Battle Sword faction away. Many people were discussing that from today onwards, the Royal Sacred Sect could no longer be considered the hegemon of the Royal Sacred Sect, because the Medicine Sovereign Valley was already strong enough to face the entire Royal Sacred Sect head-on. The Medicine Sovereign wasn't at a disadvantage even when fighting against the Sacred Emperor. For a period of time, countless people in the Royal Sacred Region headed towards the Medicine Sovereign Valley, wanting to join them. However, at this moment, a piece of news circulated out from the Royal Sacred Sect. The Royal Sacred Sect recruited all the 9 great sects into the Royal Sacred Region, and also announced to the world that if there were any other transcendent powers willing to join them, the Royal Sacred Sect was willing to establish another faction, just like the 9 great sects back then, allowing them to become a part of the Royal Sacred Sect. The moment this announcement was made, it instantly caused an uproar. Many transcendent powers were raring to go. This was a rare opportunity to become one of the hegemons of the Royal Sacred Region. After the news from the Royal Sacred Sect circulated out, the Medicine Sovereign Valley also made an announcement to the world, inviting the transcendent powers of the Royal Sacred Region to join them. The Battle Sword Sect and the Ancient Yi country gladly agreed to become part of the Medicine Sovereign Valley. The conflict between the two powers was like fire and water, and as to who would be the one to control the hegemony of the Royal Sacred Region, this became the question everyone in the Royal Sacred Region was concerned about. This also seemed to confirm the old saying in the Royal Sacred Region: if there was a day when someone could step into the legendary realm like the Sacred Emperor, they would instantly become a hegemon of a generation, able to dominate everything under the heavens. The reason why the Medicine Sovereign Valley dared to contend with the Royal Sacred Sect for the position of hegemon was undoubtedly because the Medicine Sovereign had stepped into the same realm as the Sacred Emperor. If not, the Sacred Emperor alone would be able to suppress everything. After the Battle Sword Sect and Yi country announced that they would be joining the Medicine Sovereign Valley, the Supreme D clan and the Qi clan of the Western regions also announced that they would be joining the Royal Sacred Sect. However, the majority of the major powers still chose to observe from the sidelines, not daring to be drawn into this storm. If they were the slightest bit careless, they would be annihilated. It was better for them to peacefully develop themselves. If there was a day when a character like the Medicine Sovereign appeared among them, why would they still need to submit to the Royal Sacred Sect? However, just when everyone in the Royal Sacred Region thought that a heaven-shaking, earth-shattering war was about to erupt, the two major powers suddenly ceased their war, as though they were resting and recuperating. However, everyone understood that this was the calm before the storm. In the Medicine Sovereign Valley, in the midst of a lush green mountain peak, Qin Wentian quietly sat there, absorbing the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, as well as the energy from the constellations. During the battle that day, when he was in a frenzy, he activated the power of his bloodline, causing the mysterious energy within the demon sword to erupt forth with such overwhelming might. In front of Qin Wentian, The demon sword was stabbed into the mountain peak, humming unceasingly. On the body of the sword, there seemed to be a pair of lofty eyes staring at Qin Wentian, who had his eyes closed in meditation. Within that pair of lofty eyes, a hint of fear could be seen. He didn't expect that in a mere particle world, there would actually be someone whose bloodline could awaken the ancient runes in his body, causing him to be able to unleash a trace of his power. He abandoned himself and sank into the depths of the Reverence Sword Cliff, hating the fact that the heavens were too low. But wasn't it because there was no one in this particle world who could control him? No one could truly unleash his power. Hence, he could only sink into the depths of the Reverence Sword Cliff, turning into a sword that was sealed in dust and abandoned in this particle world. If it wasn't for the fact that the bloodline of the young man before him wasn't too bad, allowing him to awaken and pull him out, he would most probably have sunk into the depths of the Reverence Sword Cliff forever. But even after the sword was unsheathed, he still didn't have too much hope for Qin Wentian. It was only until a few days ago that Qin Wentian's bloodline actually activated his power. Seems like Qin Wentian had an extraordinary bloodline, and wasn't someone from a particle world. At this moment, Qin Wentian's aura fluctuated. His eyelashes fluttered as he slowly opened his eyes. The pair of eyes on the demon sword vanished, leaving behind only a speck of light flickering on the body of the sword. The moment Qin Wentian opened his eyes, he saw the speck of light. With a wave of his hand, the demon sword flew over. Qin Wentian flicked his finger on the speck of light as the humming of a sword rang out, only to hear Qin Wentian asking, "Where did you come from exactly? How can you be so powerful?" The demon sword remained silent. There was no reply. This demon sword seemed to have its own intelligence. Unless it wanted to speak, it wouldn't reply. "However, I've said it before, I won't disgrace you. In the future, you can set your mind at ease and follow me as we roam the immortal realms." Qin Wentian held the demon sword in his hands before returning it to the sheath on his back. The humming of the sword gradually returned to silence. Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered as he instantly left this place. An instant later, he entered a great hall in the Medicine Sovereign Valley. The Medicine Sovereign, the experts of the Battle Sword Sect, Yi Qingyun and the others were all here. Upon seeing Qin Wentian entering, the Medicine Sovereign smiled. "You've awoken." "MHM." Qin Wentian nodded as he stared at the others. This was the first time he met many of them. "Qin Wentian, this time around, the calamity of the Battle Sword Sect is all thanks to you." At this moment, Sword Sovereign Ling Tian turned his gaze onto Qin Wentian as he smiled and nodded. "It's what I should do." Qin Wentian didn't mind it at all. Other than Sword Sovereign Ling Tian, all the Sword Sovereigns of the 9 mountains were here, including the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness who had a grudge with Qin Wentian. Right now, the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness had a complicated expression on her face. Back then, she invited Qin Wentian to be her disciple, but was rejected by Qin Wentian. Hence, when she spoke to Qin Wentian, her tone was filled with arrogance. After that, she came to Yi to snatch the treasure in the body of the human emperor Yi Qingyun. At this moment, the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness walked down from her seat and spoke to Qin Wentian. "Qin Wentian, I'm sorry for what happened in the past. I, Plum Mountain, would like to apologize to you. I hope you don't mind." Qin Wentian was somewhat taken aback. The Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness was incomparably proud and aloof. He didn't expect that she would actually apologize to him. "I'm fine with it. The one you should apologize to is my foster father." Qin Wentian calmly spoke. Yi Qingyun replied, "Wentian, Plum Mountain has already apologized to me. I won't mind the matters of the past anymore. Let's forget about this matter." As the human emperor of an ancient country, Yi Qingyun's bearing was extraordinary. This point had always made Qin Wentian admire him. "Yes, foster father." Qin Wentian nodded. "I only hope that Senior Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness won't think that foster father's strength is because of a mere treasure. I've also obtained a treasure in the immortal martial realm before, but I rarely borrowed its power. Just based on my constellation alone, the amplification effect of that treasure on my strength is already extremely limited. Bingyu's talent is actually very high. She basically doesn't need to borrow any external power, and would definitely have some accomplishments in the future. You are right. The attitude of the Plum Mountain Sword Sovereigness had completely changed. She nodded her head. That last Bingyu is truly outstanding, stepping into the celestial phenomenon realm even earlier than Feishue. These two little fellows are actually quite compatible with each other. I wonder if they can become a pair. Plum Mountain, I will have to depend on you to act as a matchmaker. Help to put in some good words for my disciple Feishue, haha. Sword Sovereign Ling Tian laughed. He was also very happy to see the two geniuses of the Battle Sword sect getting together. Did the Royal Sacred Sect make any moves? At this moment Qin Wentian asked. The Medicine Sovereign replied. Recently, the Royal Sacred Sect has been very quiet. But the more quiet it is, the greater the pressure. I'm afraid once the Royal Sacred Sect attacks, even if the previous Sacred Emperor were to return, the result would be devastating. No one would be able to defend against them. As the sound of the Medicine Sovereign's voice faded, everyone quietened down as they felt an immense pressure bearing down on them. Although the previous battle was extremely tragic, their battle achievements were glorious as well. Faintly, they even had the strength to contend against the Royal Sacred Sect. But would they be so lucky in the next battle? Qin Wentian also felt an immense pressure. Right now, he could only hope that his incarnation, Di Tian, would be able to speed up the process of comprehending the Immortal Palace and gain the recognition of the Master of the Immortal Palace. If he could obtain that Immortal Palace, even if he couldn't defeat the Royal Sacred Sect, as long as they both entered the Immortal Palace, the Royal Sacred Sect wouldn't be able to do anything to them. Time flowed by day after day. During these days, although the Royal Sacred Sect was calm, they were still deploying their troops to strengthen their cultivation. Today, the upper echelons of the core faction all had expressions of excitement on their faces. The immortal sense of the previous Sacred Emperor had manifested, telling everyone that he would be arriving at the Royal Sacred Sect today. To the people of the Royal Sacred Sect, this was undoubtedly an exciting piece of news. As long as the previous Sacred Emperor arrived, they would destroy the Medicine Sovereign Valley with overwhelming might, letting the people of the Royal Sacred Region understand who was the true hegemon of this world. Qin Wentian, the person who was abandoned by the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, was finally at death's door. Today, many of the upper echelons of the Royal Sacred Sect were dressed neatly as they quietly waited in the sect, preparing to welcome the arrival of the previous Sacred Emperor. Zaixian, you have some understanding of the previous Sacred Emperor. How strong is he now? Someone asked Zaixian. I'm not clear about the exact strength of the old ancestor. I only know that he joined a power in the immortal realms, and this power far surpasses our Royal Sacred Sect. There are many experts there, and there are many existences on the same level as the old ancestor. Maybe this time around, when the old ancestor returns, he would bring his fellow sect members along with him. Zaixian slowly spoke, causing the hearts of everyone to be filled with excitement. If that's the case, destroying the Medicine Sovereign Valley would be as easy as snapping a finger. And just as everyone was conversing, a resplendent light flashed in the air. Zaixian inclined his head and stared at the sky as he spoke in a low voice. They're here. As the sound of his voice faded, several figures descended from the sky, directly flying towards the direction of the Royal Sacred Sect. Chapter 733. In the airspace above the Royal Sacred Sect, a group of figures descended. The man in the lead had a dignified countenance and appeared to be in his 40s or 50s. This man was none other than the previous Sacred Emperor of the Royal Sacred Sect. He wasn't the only one who came here. There were 7 other figures beside him, all of them exuding extraordinary auras. Their eyes gleamed with divine charm, and with a single glance, all of them exuded a powerful aura. This was especially so for the middle-aged man beside the old Sacred Emperor. His eyes were extremely terrifying, like a bottomless abyss. The other 6 looked even younger. Naturally, their actual age couldn't be judged from their appearance. As for how long they had cultivated for, the people of the Royal Sacred Sect had no way to tell. Only when one stepped into a certain level of cultivation could one determine their age based on their skeletal structure. A silhouette flickered. The current Sacred Emperor Zixing arrived. He stared at the old sacred emperor and called out, "Father." So it turned out that the relationship between these two generations of sacred emperors was actually a pair of father and son. We pay our respects to the old sacred emperor. Zai Yan and the others bowed. Many of them were descendants of the old sacred emperor. It was just that there was a gap of many generations between them. Hence, it was more appropriate to refer to him as the sacred emperor. The old sacred emperor Zaijiang nodded to everyone. After which, he pointed to the middle-aged man with the terrifying gaze and introduced, "This is my junior brother Han from the same sect. You guys can refer to him as Immortal Han." We pay our respects to Immortal Han. Everyone bowed politely, feeling excited in their hearts. Since the old sacred emperor wanted them to refer to this man as Immortal Han, his cultivation base was definitely at the Immortal Foundation realm. The doomsday of the Medicine Sovereign Valley has arrived. As for the others, they are all my junior apprentice brothers and martial nephews. They came to the Royal Sacred Region for a stroll. You guys have to treat them with respect. The old sacred emperor Zaijiang commanded. Everyone nodded in acknowledgement. These people were all from the immortal realms. The old sacred emperor joined a power in the immortal realms, and hasn't returned for a very long time. If it wasn't for the fact that the Royal Sacred Sect was facing an unprecedented challenge, they wouldn't have alerted the old sacred emperor. After all, the old sacred emperor had already entered the immortal realms and naturally wouldn't interfere with the matters here. He would focus all his attention on pursuing greater strength. Immortal Han's abyss-like eyes stared at everyone. His will enveloped the entire Royal Sacred Sect. At this instant, the people of the Royal Sacred Sect all felt waves of pressure as their hearts trembled. This pressure originated from the core faction. Earlier, that descended from the sky, should be none other than the old sacred faction, the sacred emperor. Senior brother Zai, the particle world you control is truly a little weak. This sect can be considered the #1 sect in this world, right? Most probably, there aren't many people with immortal roots here. It's very rare to see someone who could attract me. That Immortal Han faintly spoke. When he spoke, he gave off a sinister feeling, causing the people of the Royal Sacred Sect to feel a sense of dread. Zaijiang naturally knew that Qin Wentian had a unique perception ability. When he heard this, he silently mused that the current Royal Sacred Sect wasn't that strong after all. There were very few people with outstanding talent, and none of them were able to enter the eyes of junior brother Han. Sacred How strong sacred clan of them is. Sacred particle, sacred realm. Of saint. Sacred of the of. Where are the enemy powers you spoke of? Let's move out now and destroy them. Let's see if there are any who are worthy of our attention. Immortal Han spoke again. No rush, we came to this particle world from thousands of miles away. Since we are already in my sect, we should at least sit down and drink a cup or two. I will get them to prepare delicacies and prepare some beauties to accompany us. Cultivation in the sect is extremely boring, it's good to relax a little. As for the enemy powers, we can just destroy them after we have enough rest. Zaijiang laughed. He didn't really place the Medicine Sovereign Valley in his eyes. Since he and his junior brother Han were here, destroying the Medicine Sovereign Valley was as easy as lifting a finger. He would let the people of the Royal Sacred Region see who the true hegemon of this region was. His junior brother Han's talent in cultivation was extremely good, and was highly regarded in the sect. This time around, it was rare for him to accompany him to this particle world. As the host, he Zaijiang naturally had to build a good relationship with his junior brother Han, and let him enjoy himself to his heart's content. Sure. Immortal Han nodded in agreement. Cultivation was indeed an extremely boring matter. In the immortal realms, although his status was high, he couldn't do as he pleased. Since it was rare for him to come out for a stroll, it was only right for him to relax and enjoy himself. When one was tired from cultivation, he naturally had to enjoy himself. The others naturally didn't have any objections. It was good for them to enjoy themselves. Go and prepare some delicacies and also some beauties. Junior brother Han's standards are extremely high. Not only must the beauties be beautiful, their talent must also be high as well. First, select some from the major powers in the sect. If there aren't any, bring them here from outside. Zaijiang instructed. Zai Yan and the others nodded, not daring to disobey. This was an immortal character after all. Since he came to their particle world, they naturally had to serve him well. I've already chosen a few beauties, I will bring them over now. Immortal Han's silhouette flickered as he vanished from sight, flying towards a certain direction. Zaijiang glanced at Immortal Han's departing back before he followed after him. The others all moved as well. The direction they were heading towards was none other than the Forgotten Immortal Tower of the Royal Sacred Sect. There were many beauties in the Forgotten Immortal Tower. Immortal Han must have already chosen some of them. Very swiftly, in the territory of the Forgotten Immortal Tower, the disciples all had bewildered looks on their faces when they saw the silhouettes descending from the air. An instant later, the leader of the Forgotten Immortal Tower personally came out to welcome them. You, the three of you, serve me today. Come up here. Immortal Han pointed his finger at three extremely beautiful maidens whose talent was extremely high as well. These three maidens could be considered heaven's chosen in the royal sacred region, and were usually extremely proud and arrogant. But now that this man was pointing at them, wanting them to serve him, their countenances instantly changed. Sacred Emperor. The leader of the Forgotten Immortal Tower stared at the Sacred Emperor. This is the junior brother of my father, Immortal Han. It's their fortune to be able to serve Immortal Han. The three of you, come up here and serve Immortal Han well. The Sacred Emperor commanded. Momentarily, the beautiful countenances of the three maidens turned pale. And as expected, these three maidens were brought away. Other than them, the other maidens of the Forgotten Immortal Tower were also brought away. That night, the banquet of the Royal Sacred Sect was extremely grand. Yet the atmosphere in the Forgotten Immortal Tower was deathly silent. The maidens who were brought away were not only the most beautiful, their talent was also the most outstanding. On the second day, some of them returned, but they were crying as they returned with many injuries on their bodies. As for the three most outstanding maidens who were brought away by Immortal Han, they didn't return to the Forgotten Immortal Tower. As for their ending, the people of the Forgotten Immortal Tower couldn't bear to think about it. Although it was true that they were from the Royal Sacred Sect and many of the maidens who were brought away had outstanding talent, in front of immortals, they were merely lambs, ants. They had no authority to speak. At noon, the sun hung high up in the sky. The Royal Sacred Sect gathered the experts of the various factions and moved out in an imposing manner, heading towards the outskirts of the Royal Sacred Sect. And at the instant they stepped out of the Royal Sacred Sect, the people of the Sacred Royal City all felt their hearts trembling when they saw this scene. The Royal Sacred Sect was finally making their move. They were currently heading towards the Medicine Sovereign Valley. The experts of the Royal Sacred Sect didn't fly in the air, but chose to fly at a low altitude instead. It was as though they wanted to announce to the world who was the true hegemon of this world. Everywhere they passed, a stifling pressure could be felt in the air, capable of crushing everything. Some of the weaker ones were even forced to lie flat on the ground, unable to stand up. Just the casual aura they exuded was enough to crush all living beings. It was too terrifying, it was as though doomsday had arrived. How powerful! Countless people inclined their heads, staring at the experts of the Royal Sacred Sect flying in the direction of the Medicine Sovereign Valley. Recently, everyone in the Sacred Royal City was discussing about the Royal Sacred Sect and the Medicine Sovereign Valley, saying that the Royal Sacred Sect was merely SOSO, and that the Medicine Sovereign Valley was able to catch up to them. But only after personally witnessing the strength of the Royal Sacred Sect did they truly understand how strong this hegemon was. How much strength was needed to shake them. Quickly head to the Medicine Sovereign Valley. Maybe, the battle that would decide the future of the Royal Sacred Region will be decided by this. Numerous voices rang out in the Sacred Royal City as countless silhouettes rushed in the direction of the Medicine Sovereign Valley. The battle today might very well be the final battle between the two factions. In the Medicine Sovereign Valley, when the experts of the Royal Sacred Sect were still far away, the Medicine Sovereign had already sensed the aura gushing over from the sky. He inclined his head and stared at the horizon as he spoke. They're here. At this moment, the medicine sovereign's brows were furrowed. He didn't know how to resolve this calamity. If he really couldn't win, he could only bring Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing away. He believed that as long as he was still alive, the sacred emperor wouldn't dare to start a massacre. At this moment, the countenance of the medicine sovereign stiffened. He discovered that there was something wrong with the three powerful auras. At the same time, three tyrannical auras gushed towards the sacred emperor. Very swiftly, outside the medicine sovereign valley, the experts of the royal sacred sect rushed over, standing in the air. The experts of the medicine sovereign valley as well as their puppets were already floating in the air, staring at the experts who just arrived. Just this power? Immortal Han's perception swept over. The old sacred emperor Zaijiang nodded his head as he spoke. This medicine sovereign can be considered an extremely ancient character, and has already stepped into the immortal foundation realm. Who would have thought that he would dare to oppose my royal sacred sect? Junior brother Han. How about leaving him to you? Not bad. Immortal Han nodded. After which his gaze swept past Qin Wentian, Mo Qingqing, Lin Shuai, Lu Bingyu, Ji Feishue and the others. Every single one of them was someone with extraordinary talent. There are a few fellows here whose auras are extremely good. Their potential might even be greater compared to those from your royal sacred sect. So what of it? If they meet junior brother Han, they are all dead men. Zaijiang laughed. Talent, potential? In the face of absolute strength, everything was a joke. In the immortal realms, there would be countless geniuses dying every day. For those geniuses who had yet to mature, if you didn't have any background, those major characters would accept you as a disciple if they found you pleasing to their eyes. If you dared to be arrogant, they might even kill you if they found you displeasing to their eyes. What else could you do? What use was there even if you were a genius? Immortal Han coldly laughed. After which, an immortal light radiated from him, expanding unceasingly. Within this immortal light, one could faintly see a terrifying blood-colored glow, instantly enveloping the entire space. Those from the medicine sovereign valley all felt a stifling pressure bearing down on them. Sir, it's not good to deal with people of a lower cultivation base, right? The countenance of the medicine sovereign changed. Immortal Han glanced at him as a look of mockery appeared on his face. Are you joking with me? If I don't deal with those weaker than me, could it be that I should deal with those stronger than me? As the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying energy erupted forth. That was a supremely powerful devouring energy. The group of maidens from the medicine sovereign valley at the very front were directly sucked to the side of Immortal Han. Immortal Han stretched his hand out and placed it on their heads. His eyes flashed with a terrifying blood-colored light as the bodies of these maidens exploded, transforming into blood chi that was directly devoured by him. The medicine sovereign's countenance instantly turned ashen. He stared at Immortal Han. You have no principles at all. Are you not afraid that I will kill everyone from your royal sacred sect? If you have the capabilities, just kill them all. What has this got to do with me? Immortal Han coldly spoke. Would he even care about those from the royal sacred sect? Stepping out, Immortal Han rushed towards the crowd. His gaze was fixed on Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing. What a powerful blood chi. These two weren't bad at all. Chapter 734. In the Vermilion Bird Immortal Palace of the Royal Sacred Region, the other body of Qin Wentian, Di Tian, was still comprehending the diagram scroll. At this moment, runic light radiated from him, as though he wanted to fuse as one with the diagram. From afar, two silhouettes quietly stared at this scene. They were none other than the old man and young man who appeared in the Immortal Palace back then. Just when Di Tian was in a good state of comprehension, his aura suddenly turned chaotic as the golden runic light around him fluctuated violently. He was naturally very clear that his original body was in danger. Usually he would discard all distracting thoughts and cultivate quietly, allowing him to control his emotions very well. But right now, the two sacred emperors of the royal sacred sect even brought along a powerful Immortal Han and started a massacre. Qin Wentian's other body could no longer maintain his composure and was extremely anxious. He hoped that he could comprehend the diagram as soon as possible. But the more anxious he was, the easier it was for him to make a mistake. The old man was somewhat taken aback. Why would there be a mistake at this moment? Qin Wentian's state of heart seemed to be fluctuating. At the celestial phenomenon realm, he should be able to control his state of heart very well. His control over his state of heart is actually so weak. The black-robed young man beside him coldly spoke with disdain. His comprehension abilities are already very high. In addition, this is only one of his bodies. However, this innate technique is truly marvelous. I can't tell which is the original body and which is the clone. It's like they are one entity. The old man spoke. After which he continued. Allow me to see what is happening to the other body. As the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying wisp of consciousness expanded out of the celestial palace. In an instant, millions of scenes appeared in his mind. Cities, mountains, people, birds, and beasts were all in his consciousness. However, all of them were instantly filtered out by him. Busy. Among the countless figures, there was a figure that was locked onto by his will. It was none other than Qin Wentian, who was currently in combat. In just an instant, the old man could see everything clearly. He couldn't help but to mumble in a low voice. So this is the case, no wonder his state of heart was fluctuating. Qin Wentian's clone used the pseudonym Tian, and had been changing his appearance. It was all for the sake of preventing others from discovering that he was Qin Wentian. He would never have imagined that everything about him was seen through by this old man. The great Nirvana immortal art was so perfect. Yet this old man could easily find his true self. Before Qin Wentian stepped into the celestial phenomenon realm, although he and Tian had two different bodies, their cultivation bases were the same. Even their bloodlines and auras were the same. This was the most monstrous aspect of the great Nirvana immortal art. But at the same time, as long as there were people with extremely powerful senses, they would be able to tell that they were the same person. An example was this old man. Back then when Qin Wentian and Tian appeared in the immortal palace, how could they hide from him? Just as well, let's test his state of heart. The old man silently mused as he stared at Tian. From the Medicine Sovereign Valley, Immortal Han rushed towards Qin Wentian. Both his palms stretched out as a terrifying devouring energy enveloped this entire space. Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing were involuntarily drawn towards each other. Not only them, many experts in the surroundings had no way to resist that terrifying devouring energy. The silhouette of the Medicine Sovereign appeared as a fearsome energy enveloped Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing, helping them to block the pressure. However, the others weren't so lucky. When they were drawn to Immortal Han's side, they directly transformed into streams of blood qi and were devoured, dying extremely miserable deaths. Sacred Emperor, you guys actually invited such a person who has no principles. The Medicine Sovereign had an expression of rage on his face. With a thunderous boom, the entire world seemed to be engulfed in flames. Kill. Terrifying immortal flames blazed, targeting the experts of the Royal Sacred Sect. The countenances of the experts from the Royal Sacred Sect turned pale. Many of them were directly incinerated into ashes. The two generations of Sacred Emperors didn't expect Immortal Han to do this. He truly had no reservations at all. No matter what, he should have killed the Medicine Sovereign first before dealing with these ant-like characters. But now, he had implicated the people of their Royal Sacred Sect. All of you retreat further away. Zaijiang shouted. The experts of the Royal Sacred Sect retreated madly, so did those from the Medicine Sovereign Valley. However, Zaijiang only snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, countless streaks of golden lightning arced through the sky, reaping lives one after another. In just an instant, it was unknown how many experts had fallen. In the face of such an immortal foundation existence, experts of the lower levels were simply grass, unable to withstand a single strike. They could only wait to be slaughtered. You think you can block me? Immortal Han glanced at the Medicine Sovereign. After which, boundless blood-colored light enveloped the heavens and earth, transforming into strands of blood-colored threads that drilled into the bodies of many, resembling blood-colored sharp swords, reaping the lives of those from the Medicine Sovereign Valley. Immortal Han devoured the blood and qi of those from the Medicine Sovereign Valley, turning them into nourishment for his cultivation. The blood chi of these people is so weak, there wouldn't be much use even after I refine them. Immortal Han stared at Qin Wentian and Mo Qingqing, who were behind the medicine sovereign. These two shouldn't be too bad, especially for Qin Wentian. His sharp senses could sense an extremely strong blood chi from Qin Wentian. At this moment, a supreme sword chi abruptly descended upon this space, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble. Immortal Han, the sacred emperor, and the others all inclined their heads and stared at the sky. A swordsman descended from the sky. This swordsman was completely white, with white hair and a white beard, exuding a transcendent aura. His body exuded an overwhelming sharpness. "Sir, who are you?" The old sacred emperor Zaijiang inclined his head and stared at the swordsman as he asked. "Are the people of the battle sword sect here?" The swordsman emotionlessly asked. Su Tsang from the battle sword sect trembled as he stared at the white-haired swordsman. His body trembled as he replied, "Junior and the rest of us are from the battle sword sect." "Why did you destroy my grass hut?" the old man faintly asked. Su Tsang and the others from the battle sword sect all trembled. Grass hut? Was this the ancestor of the battle sword sect? Disciple Su Tsang was unfilial. The battle sword sect was threatened by others and had no choice but to relocate. If the battle sword sect was here, the grass hut would also be here. Now that the battle sword sect has left, I had no choice but to destroy the grass hut. Su Tsang knelt and respectfully spoke. He didn't expect that the ancestor of the battle sword sect was still alive, and could sense the destruction of the grass hut. Sword Saintly Mubai. The old sacred emperor of the royal sacred sect, Zaijiang, inclined his head and stared at the silhouette of the old man. This old man was someone from the same generation as him, yet he was actually still alive. People from the royal sacred sect. Li Mubai glanced at them as he coldly spoke. "What grudge do you have against me? You actually want to destroy my faction? This is the War Immortal Palace's business." Scram. Immortal Han glanced at Li Mubai, his tone filled with arrogance. "People from the War Immortal Palace." Li Mubai's expression froze as he coldly spoke. "Just because you are from the War Immortal Palace, you think you can come to a particle world and kill as you wish? How shameless. Just with your strength, you dare to insult my War Immortal Palace." Immortal Han's countenance turned cold. Li Mubai coldly snorted. The War Immortal Palace was a major power in the immortal realms, and was extremely powerful in certain regions. However, he didn't have a fixed residence and was always roaming around. The immortal realms were boundlessly vast. How could the War Immortal Palace chase after him? Immortal Han stepped out, moving towards Qin Wentian once again. However, he only saw a beam of sword light descending from the sky. Li Mubai transformed into a beam of sword light, instantly appearing before Immortal Han. Immortal Han turned around as immortal light illuminated the sky from both of them. The blood chi from Immortal Han towered up into the sky, while Sword Saintly Mubai's entire body shimmered with an indomitable might. Qin Wentian's countenance was ice cold, incomparably enraged. He stared at Li Mubai's swordplay. Each and every one of his sword strikes seemed to be able to slice apart the void. When he attacked, his speed was as fast as lightning, and he couldn't tell how much power was contained within. But if he was struck by Li Mubai's attacks, he would most probably die without a burial. "Senior, receive my sword." Qin Wentian spoke. The power of his bloodline frenziedly gushed into the demon sword as it arced through the air, directly flying towards Li Mubai. Li Mubai glanced at it as the demon sword hummed softly. He praised. "This sword has a spirit, what a good sword." As the sound of his voice faded, boundless sword intent swirled around the demon sword as it directly landed in his palm. Sword Saintly Mubai directly rushed towards Immortal Han with a speed as fast as lightning, like a sword. His movements were so fast that no one could see how fast he was. The two of them clashed several times in an instant. Qin Wentian only saw the demon sword sweeping out before expanding in size, almost cleaving Immortal Han into two. But even so, it still managed to leave a bloody scar on his body. Immortal-level experts are even more proficient in wielding the demon sword. Qin Wentian silently mused. He only saw Sword Saintly Mubai forming sword imprints as the entire space around him started to tremble. It was as though countless sharp swords were about to break through the heavens. Everyone in a radius of a few hundred miles could feel the terrifying might of the swords. If Li Mubai wanted to kill them, it would be extremely easy. Die. As the sound of Li Mubai's voice faded, the 10,000 swords shot out in unison, aiming for Immortal Han. Immortal Han instantly retreated, and in the blink of an eye, he was already high up in the air. A terrifying shadow astral soul appeared behind Immortal Han, resembling a terrifying blood-colored devil that could devour the heavens and earth. Go! Li Mubai formed sword imprints on the demon sword as resplendent runic lights flashed. The demon sword pierced through the air, piercing through the towering shadow astral soul. Terrifying rumbling sounds rang out as Immortal Han screamed in agony, after which he transformed into a beam of blood-colored light as he fled. The demon sword arced through the air before turning and flying back. The two generations of sacred emperors exchanged glances before their silhouettes flickered as they also retreated far away. The people from the royal sacred sect were so frightened that they fled for their lives when they saw this scene. The changes this time around were far beyond their imagination. Why did the founder of the battle sword sect appear here? Ancestor, should we pursue them? Su Tsang asked. No need, it doesn't matter if we kill them or not. In addition, I'm worried that the War Immortal Palace would interfere in the war of this particle world. Li Mubai frowned. If the War Immortal Palace interfered, it would undoubtedly be the end of the world. There was no way for them to defend against them. Even if he was stronger, it would be useless. Qin Wentian's countenance was extremely unsightly to behold. The War Immortal Palace. He didn't expect that even the major powers of the immortal realms would be implicated in this war of the royal sacred region. Staring at the casualties of those from the Medicine Sovereign Valley, Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with a ruthless light. The demon sword hummed lightly as it returned to Qin Wentian's side. Sword Saint Li Mubai slowly walked over, staring at Qin Wentian. This sword of yours isn't bad, it has a spirit. Sadly, Junior has no way to unleash its full strength. Qin Wentian sheathed the demon sword. This time around, many thanks to Senior for acting. If not, the consequences would be unimaginably dire. Chapter 735. Li Mubai waved his hands. I didn't appear because of you. There's no need to thank me. But this sword has a very strong spirituality. I hope you will be able to control it. Don't make any mistakes. Many thanks for Senior's reminder. Qin Wentian was extremely respectful towards the old man in front of him. This was the ancestor of the battle sword sect. Ancestor, this young man's name is Qin Wentian. He's the one who broke the record of the battle sword hut. It's only because he had a grudge with the royal sacred sect that he chose to withdraw from the sect in order to avoid implicating the battle sword sect. Su Tsang walked over as he spoke to Li Mubai. This caused Li Mubai to cast a few more glances at Qin Wentian as he smiled. Being able to break the record of the battle sword hut, not bad. Little brat, do you have a master? I already have a master. I can't join any other sect. Qin Wentian bowed. Li Mubai continued. What a pity. I thought it would be hard for you to find a master in this particle world, and wanted to accept you as a disciple. Wentian, I'm sure your master wouldn't mind if you took me as your master. Su Tsang persuaded. Qin Wentian shook his head. It's a long story. The rules of the sect state that I'm not allowed to join any other sect. Su Tsang started, staring at the look in Qin Wentian's eyes. Bewilderment appeared in his heart. From what he knew, Qin Wentian shouldn't have a master in the royal sacred region. Why was this so? Could it be that the Dongxing Heaven Emperor accepted him as a disciple? But the Dongxing Heaven Emperor and the other immortal kings had clearly given up on Qin Wentian. This made him puzzled no matter how he thought about it. Don't worry, I'm already used to being lazy. Hence, I didn't join any other powers in the immortal realms and preferred to be a lone ranger. It's only because this fellow has fate with the battle sword sect that I had such thoughts. But since this brat already has a master, I won't worry about him anymore. Li Mubai waved his hands. Su Tsang nodded as he asked, Ancestor, why did you appear here? Also, the royal sacred sect has gone too far. Why didn't you pursue them? Actually, I've already returned from my travels before, It's just that you guys don't know about this. I left a strand of my immortal sense in the grass hut, and when you guys destroyed the grass hut, I instantly knew about it. Hence, I knew that something must have happened to the Battle Sword sect. Hence, I came back to take a look, and as expected, there was no one in the Battle Sword sect at all. Hence, I came to the Sacred Royal City and didn't expect to see you guys fighting here. How coincidental. Li Mubai explained. As for why we didn't pursue the Royal Sacred Sect, it's also to leave a path of retreat for you guys. I know of the War Immortal Palace. It's an extremely powerful power. Although it's considered ordinary in the immortal realms, it's more than sufficient to sweep through the entire Royal Sacred region. If that person has a high status in the War Immortal Palace, we can summon the experts from the War Immortal Palace, and you guys can all flee separately. At that time, the Royal Sacred Sect wouldn't be so crazy to hunt you guys down. And if the War Immortal Palace doesn't interfere in the matters of this particle world, it's the same to deal with the Royal Sacred Sect later on. Ancestors' considerations are truly thorough. Su Tsang felt enlightened in his heart. Indeed, the ancestors' considerations were much more comprehensive. Medicine Sovereign, what do you think? Should we temporarily disperse them? If they meet people at our level, they are nothing but cannon fodder. After the situation is settled, it's the same for them to return. Li Mubai turned his gaze to the Medicine Sovereign as he spoke. The Medicine Sovereign muttered to himself for a moment before nodding his head. I'm responsible for today's matter. My considerations were lacking. I didn't expect Zaijiang to join the War Immortal Palace, and even brought the experts from the War Immortal Palace here. Those people from the War Immortal Palace are extremely vicious, directly starting a massacre, not even caring about the deaths of the experts from the Royal Sacred Sect. It's best if we disperse the experts from the Medicine Sovereign Valley first. Qin Wentian sighed in his heart when he heard the Medicine Sovereign's words. He glanced at the vast space around him. Although the battle had only started for an instant, the casualties were extremely heavy. Just like what Li Mubai said, in front of people at their level, those from the Medicine Sovereign Valley were nothing but cannon fodder. They basically didn't even have the qualifications to participate in the battle. He had to avenge this grudge no matter what. As he thought of this, he clenched his fists so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. The involvement of the experts from the War Immortal Palace was something completely unexpected. Clean up the battlefield. For those who can be healed, don't be stingy with medicinal pills. After that, you guys temporarily disperse and observe the situation in the Royal Sacred Region. I believe that everything will be settled in a short period of time. The Medicine Sovereign stared at everyone as he slowly spoke. If the other party requested help from the War Immortal Palace, it wouldn't be long before they arrived. Let's go in and chat. The Medicine Sovereign spoke to Li Mubai after giving his instructions. The group of them then entered the depths of the Medicine Sovereign Valley. Li Mubai, you've been in the immortal realms for so many years. How many immortal foundations have you established? On the ancient peak of the Medicine Sovereign Valley, the Medicine Sovereign, Li Mubai, Su Tsang, Qin Wentian, Mo Qingqing and the other important characters were all present. The Medicine Sovereign asked Sword Saint Li Mubai. This was a topic regarding the legendary Immortal Foundation. Qin Wentian and the others all perked up their ears. How difficult? Establishing one's immortal foundation is simply too difficult. At this level, every breakthrough is even harder than ascending to immortality. Hence, in the immortal realms, there are supreme geniuses who became immortals within 100 years. But if one wants to break through to the Immortal King realm, they would need at least a few thousand years. Those who reach the Immortal King realm within 10,000 years are all supreme geniuses. But naturally, that realm is too far away from us. I'm already satisfied if I can establish one immortal foundation within 10,000 years. Li Mubai sighed. Up until now, I've only established a second-level immortal foundation. That expert from the War Immortal Palace is the same as me. His cultivation base is also at the second level. Immortals in the legends should be at the Immortal Foundation realm. Qin Wentian silently mused. Only by establishing one's immortal foundation could one become an immortal? I'm really looking forward to it. The immortal realms must be very fascinating. The eyes of the medicine sovereign flickered with intense anticipation. Fascinating, of course it's fascinating. Li Mubai stroked his beard as he continued. The immortal realms are boundless and boundless. Even if I were to spend my entire life there, I wouldn't be able to finish exploring the immortal realms. In the immortal realms, there are countless powers, immortal empires, sacred grounds, immortal estates, immortal sects, innumerable danger zones, and innumerable experts. That war immortal palace, don't think that they can dominate everything in this particle world. But in the perspective of the immortal realms, they are simply insignificant. Once, I spent thousands of years roaming the immortal realms, but I've only visited a small portion of the immortal realms. The medicine sovereign, Qin Wentian, and the others sighed in their hearts. Was this the immortal realms? Naturally, although the immortal realms are fascinating, it's also extremely cruel. The strong are revered, survival of the fittest. If your strength is weak and you don't have any background, you better be more low profile and don't casually antagonize others. If not, you wouldn't even know how you died. You mustn't possess any powerful treasures or you might be killed. In fact, you mustn't even have a beautiful wife or children because you are weak and you won't be able to protect them. Li Mubai sighed. Hence, for those who are weak and have no background, they are the most miserable. Hence, the immortal realms are extremely cruel. Many stellar martial cultivators are slaves, controlled by others. Many beautiful females are even more miserable. Those major characters in the immortal realms basically wouldn't care about the thoughts of those with low statuses. Qin Wentian was deeply moved when he heard Li Mubai's words. He had personally seen the Dongxing Heaven Emperor and the other immortal kings before. Although those immortal kings all had smiles on their faces, when he was abandoned by the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, not a single one of them even glanced at him. Deep in their bones, they were extremely cold to the weak, even if you have outstanding talent. Didn't that expert from the War Immortal Palace who came with the Sacred Emperor also treat the lives of those from the Medicine Sovereign Valley and the Royal Sacred Sect with disdain? Senior, given how cruel the immortal realms are, wouldn't it be very stifling? Qin Wentian curiously asked. No, compared to a particle world, I still prefer life in the immortal realms more. Li Mubai shook his head. I'm alone, I have no worries. I usually keep a low profile and wouldn't encounter people who want to kill me just because they don't like me. When one reaches a high cultivation realm, their temperament would naturally be extraordinary. Unless there's something that can tempt them, they wouldn't act so easily. Also, in the immortal realms, I can go on adventures every day, pursuing the path of the strong, the hot-blooded path of cultivation. I only hate that I'm too old and my talent isn't good enough. If not, I wouldn't be so low profile and would definitely contend against the geniuses of the immortal realms. Wentian, you don't know this. In the immortal realms, if your talent is good, there are simply too many temptations. Invitations from major powers, plundering all sorts of heavenly ingredients and earthly treasures, exploring the ruins left behind by supreme existences. All of these are extremely exciting. Fine wine, delicacies, everything you want, beauties like the clouds, throwing themselves into your arms. Ha. Li Mubai laughed carefreely. Just a glance was enough to tell that he was a carefree person. Sadly, his talent wasn't strong enough. In this particle world, his talent could be ranked at the very top or he wouldn't have been able to walk out of here. But in the immortal realms, he was simply too ordinary, an unremarkable member of the masses. From Li Mubai's words, Qin Wentian could sense his loneliness as well as his pursuits. Immortal realms. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the sky. He was also filled with anticipation for the immortal realms. Were his parents people from the immortal realms? Also, Qing her clan should be extraordinary even in the immortal realms. The Royal Sacred Sect's grand attack failed to take down the Medicine Sovereign Valley. It was rumored that the ancestor of the Battle Sword sect had returned, allowing the Medicine Sovereign Valley to avoid this calamity. This battle also caused the experts of the Medicine Sovereign Valley to temporarily disperse. For the next period of time, the sacred royal city regained its former tranquility. However, the victor between the Royal Sacred Sect and the Medicine Sovereign Valley had yet to be determined. The hearts of everyone were still hanging in suspense. The battle for the hegemon of the sacred royal sect had yet to conclude. In the Vermilion Bird Immortal Palace, the other body of Qin Wentian, Ditian, was still comprehending. From afar, an old man and a young man were still watching him. They were long used to it. They had waited for too long, and finally, there was hope. The old man was filled with anticipation. At this moment, the golden picture scroll above Ditian transformed into boundless runic light that entered Ditian's body. Finally, Ditian's eyes opened. He stood up and the golden picture scroll transformed into millions of runes, enveloping this entire space. After which, the runes revolved frenziedly as they entered Ditian's body. When the light dissipated, Ditian's eyes flashed with sharpness. That was clearly the gaze of Qin Wentian. Because Ditian was none other than Qin Wentian. Senior, is it enough? Ditian stared at the old man as he asked. What's enough? The old man laughed. After passing the test, can I control the immortal palace? Ditian asked. The old man laughed. Are you dreaming? You just passed the first test and you already want to obtain the inheritance and control the immortal palace? Ditian's expression froze, extremely unsightly to behold. Your path is still long. This time around, you can be considered to have crossed the threshold, but it's still far from enough. As for roaming the immortal realms, leave it to your other body. As for you, I will be in charge of tempering you. The old man spoke, his words causing Ditian's expression to stiffen as madness flashed in his eyes. He actually knew about this? This particle world is too small. From today onwards, you have already crossed the threshold. I will bring you to roam the various particle worlds. There are billions of particle worlds and some of them are extremely powerful, but there are also many that have extraordinary aspects. I will do my best to nurture you, allowing you to establish your immortal foundation within 100 years of age. At that time, you can be considered to have truly passed the test. The eyes of the old man were incomparably deep, resembling a world of stars. He stared at Ditian as he spoke. From today onwards, your astral souls can only be sealing-type astral souls. You will walk towards the path of the great Tao of sealing, walking towards the peak. The power of sealing is the strongest ability in the world. There are no other abilities that can compare to it. Ditian's eyes flashed. He didn't know who this old man was. He himself cultivated in the Tao of sealing and naturally, he would revere it. As for the so-called strongest, he didn't believe it at all. Are you doubting my words? The old man laughed. Is the power of space powerful? Is the power of time powerful? Is the power of light powerful? All of them are extremely powerful. However, when you cultivate the sealing art to the highest level, you will be able to engrave it. Sealing cultivation, sealing speed, sealing space, sealing time, sealing the world. Do you think that sealing is the strongest power? Chapter 736. Staring at the fanatical old man, Ditian was somewhat speechless. Although there were differences in strength between different types of laws, for example spatial laws were clearly stronger than ordinary laws, and sealing was also considered one of the stronger types of laws, the true deciding factor was still the stellar martial cultivator. The stronger the cultivator, the stronger the attribute they could unleash. Ditian had never doubted this point. It was just that this old man loved sealing, hence, he viewed sealing as the strongest type of energy. This sort of obsession was naturally beneficial to those who cultivated sealing, because he would wholeheartedly focus on this type of energy. Sealing could seal space and speed, it was indeed very powerful. But what if one cultivated spatial laws to the extreme? Could it be that one couldn't tear apart the seal and isolate it? If one cultivated speed to the extreme, before your seal was fully formed, your enemies would have already left the area of effect of the seal or appeared before you. How can you fight then? The myriad of existences in the world had their own counter to each other. It was the same for energy as well. The so-called strong and weak were all relative. There was no absolute strongest attribute. At the very least, you have to tell me what grade the inheritance of this immortal palace is at. After that, I will choose if I want to focus all my energy on it. Ditian stared at the old man, interrupting his fanaticism. Brat, you are truly brazen. The old man stared at Ditian. Fine, I will tell you. That day in the air, those immortal kings who didn't even bother to glance at you, including the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, who abandoned you. As long as you can obtain the complete inheritance, you will be able to trample all of them beneath your feet. Are you satisfied with this answer? Ditian started. Seems like this old fellow truly understood him very well. He was Qin Wentian. There was no way he could hide it from the old man. He even knew about the matters regarding the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. Seems like this old fellow was also a major character. Since you know everything, I once rejected the Dongxing Heaven Emperor's offer to take me as a disciple because he wanted me to only have freedom once every 1,000 years. I can allow you to temper me, and I can also do my best to cultivate my sealing arts. However, you cannot restrict my freedom. Just like now, I've encountered some trouble. Ditian spoke. You should know that this isn't the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor accepting a disciple. Even if the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor accepts you as his disciple, it still depends on your good fortune, and whether the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor likes you or not. Those supreme existences have countless disciples. How much time and effort would they have to invest in you? These are all unknowns. Perhaps you're just a marginal person, but now, I'm going to give you everything. I'm going to let you obtain the complete inheritance. Do you know how many people dream of this? You actually dare to negotiate with me? The old man cursed in a low voice. Ditian naturally understood this logic. If he was accepted as a disciple of the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor, it still depended on his mood and Dongxing Ting's expression. In fact, the Dongxing Heaven Emperor was willing to hand him over to his subordinate Deep Flame. Naturally, this couldn't be compared to the inheritance before his eyes. However, he still had to fight for it. Regardless of those buried immortals or immortals outside, don't look at how pitiful they are. Which one of them isn't here for the sake of seizing the inheritance? The old man continued. However, I'm not that unreasonable. Your other body has encountered some trouble. I'll give you a chance. As long as you can undo the seals on those people, you can do whatever you want with them. In addition, I'll give you a month's time to settle this matter. As for the future, you still have to listen to my arrangements. I won't harm you. Everything I'm doing is for you to grow stronger, allowing you to obtain the complete inheritance. If I want to kill you, this old man can turn you into meat paste with a single slap. Ditian's lips twitched. He didn't doubt this point at all. In that case, can I leave now? Ditian asked. Wait a minute. Although you and your other body have cultivated different types of energy and your aura has changed, you are still the same person after all. Disguising techniques can't fool supreme existences. Since you don't want to expose your true appearance, don't cause unnecessary trouble. Wear this mask, it can block all probing. The old man waved his hand as a bronze mask flew towards Ditian. Many thanks, Senior. Ditian thanked. This old man wasn't as unreasonable as the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. The Dongxing Heaven Emperor completely didn't give him enough respect at all. After receiving the mask, a cold and sinister aura gushed forth from within. As he wore the mask, the skin on his face was pierced through as a mysterious energy fused with his face. At this moment, Ditian, who was wearing the bronze mask, exuded an extremely cold aura, giving off a terrifying feeling to those who looked at him. Wear this armor well. Don't get killed the moment you enter the sect. With your current strength, it's still not enough. The old man waved his hands again as a set of bronze armor appeared. Ditian directly donned it, and the coldness of the metal caused everyone to feel a sense of sharpness. At this moment, Ditian gave off an extremely strong visual impact. He was mysterious and unfathomable. Most probably, other than the old man, no one would be able to recognize him. Seems like Senior is still very concerned about this Junior. Ditian laughed. After that, he turned and sped away. The old man stared at his back as a strange light flashed in his eyes. After that he grinned. It took me so many years to find a suitable successor. How can I not care? Although you comprehended the picture scroll with a single thought, it's not a big deal. Are you so satisfied? The cold-looking young man at the side asked. Haha, you don't understand. The old man laughed and didn't say anything more. Ditian's figure flickered as he sped towards the place where the immortals were at. When he arrived, all the immortals stared at him. At this moment, Tian was clad in armor and had a bronze mask on his face. His entire body radiated a cold aura. It was basically impossible to recognize him. "Seniors, it's me." With an intention of his will, the mask on Tian's face directly vanished, fusing into his skin, revealing his face. Naturally, this was the face he had disguised. "Tian, have you obtained the inheritance?" A skinny old man asked. "I haven't fully obtained it yet. Let me take a look at the seals on the bodies of seniors." Tian's eyes abruptly changed. Countless pupils stacked on top of each other, resembling the eyes of the abyss as they spun frenziedly. He stared at the bodies of the immortals, and in an instant, he could clearly see the terrifying diagrams that were sealed within the bodies of the immortals. The complete diagrams were like chains, extremely terrifying. "Sealing immortals, I have no way to do it." Tian was stunned by the diagram. Although he had already comprehended the picture scroll, he still had no way to inscribe such a seal. "Can it be undone?" Many silhouettes flashed as the immortals came before Tian. Their gazes filled with anticipation. Yes. A dazzling light flashed in Tian's eyes. Although he couldn't inscribe it, he could destroy it. As long as he destroyed the crucial part of the seal, with the strength of the immortals themselves, they would be able to break through the restraints of the seal. As the sound of his voice faded, the gazes of everyone froze. Numerous familiar faces stared at Tian, as though they had forgotten how to think. They have been trapped here for far too long. Their strength was sealed and they had no way to cultivate. Now that they heard Tian saying that he could unseal the seal, many of them were momentarily dazed. "Will that fellow spare us?" Someone worriedly asked. "Don't worry, Senior has already said that as long as I can undo the seal, I can do whatever I want to you all. I will allow you all to leave the immortal palace." Tian smiled. Good. An old man clenched his fists tightly as he nodded his head repeatedly. Finally, could they leave this place? "Tian, shall we begin?" Someone asked in a trembling voice. I shall undo the seals for all of you now. These seals are all very powerful. I can only destroy them. I will allow all of you to forcefully break them apart." Tian spoke. "Which senior wants to try first?" "Let me." Someone spoke. "Okay." Tian nodded. Boundless runic light abruptly radiated from his body as his eyes turned even more terrifying. He slammed his palms onto the immortal as the runes directly entered his body. The sealing diagram that had been hidden for so long abruptly appeared. That immortal radiated an intense light, causing even he to be stunned. Was this the power of the seal hidden within his body? At this moment he could finally sense it clearly. "Break." Tian coldly snorted. The runic light frenziedly gushed into the diagram, breaking it apart. After that, he turned to that immortal and spoke. "Senior, feel your strength and see if you can break the seal." "Immortal foundation, my immortal foundation." That immortal's countenance abruptly turned red. He soared up into the air as a boundless light radiated from him. This was the halo of light unique to immortal foundation experts. "Finally, I'm free." That immortal roared in rage. With a thunderous boom, the seal in his body was completely broken apart as an immortal aura gushed forth, permeating this entire space. "It's broken." The bodies of many people trembled. All of them were incomparably agitated. For those who were sealed in certain places and couldn't move, expressions of excitement could be seen on their faces. An example was the red-haired old man whom Qin Wentian met when he first stepped into this place. His eyes were slightly moist. Tian did it. He didn't disappoint him at all. "Seniors, don't be anxious. I will help all of you break the seal one by one." Tian couldn't help but to smile when he saw so many people calling out to him. "Haha, look at how anxious you guys are. Good. Everyone just wait patiently. Tian, you can do it one by one." Someone laughed uproariously. However, the agitation on his face couldn't be masked. Evidently, he wasn't as calm as he was when he spoke. After being sealed for so long, it was simply too unbearable. Now it was finally the end. They could finally break the seal and head to the immortal realms. "My son, you are already an old man now, right?" An old man's eyes turned red. "Little E, have you been well?" There was someone who missed his wife, as all sorts of emotions welled up in his heart. Was this nightmare finally going to end? Back then, they shouldn't have been so greedy for the inheritance. Chapter 737. When Di Tian was comprehending the picture scroll and unsealing the immortals, the experts from the War Immortal Palace arrived in the Royal Sacred Sect. Just like what Li Mubai had predicted, the War Immortal Palace was still preparing to interfere in the battle in this particle world. Within the Royal Sacred Sect, all the experts, including Immortal Han, came out to welcome the experts from the War Immortal Palace. There were over 10 immortals in this group, and each of them had an immortal halo revolving around them, glowing with immortal light. After stepping into the Immortal Foundation realm and becoming an immortal, the aura of stellar martial cultivators would undergo a transformation. In fact, they would even have a unique halo around them. This halo was naturally released by their bodies and wasn't intentional. Some people would retract their halo to make themselves look ordinary. Immortal Han. In the center of these experts from the Royal Sacred Sect, there was an extremely young-looking expert. But just from the faint halo of light around him, one could tell that he was an immortal-ranked expert. Evidently, he wasn't as young as he appeared on the surface, but this also indicated that the time he spent in the immortal-ranked realm was shorter compared to the others. Hence, he appeared younger. Naturally, there were also some who cultivated unique cultivation arts that allowed them to look younger. Here, Immortal Han replied, "You said that an immortal sword with a spirit appeared in this particle world?" That young man asked. "Yes, senior brother. This sword is like a demon, and is controlled by a little fellow at the celestial phenomenon realm. He basically has no way to unleash its full power, and lent it to a second-level Immortal Foundation cultivator. Also, I can sense that this sword has its own spirituality." Immortal Han spoke. The eyes of the young man flashed with sharpness. When Immortal Han informed him through the immortal sense he left in the War Immortal Palace, he decided to personally make a trip to this particle world. Immortal-ranked weapons were already extraordinary, and those that had spirituality were even rarer. 4 immortal-ranked weapons that had spirituality. It meant that they had the potential to grow stronger and could evolve. The allure of such a weapon was simply too strong. He had no choice but to make a trip here personally. I heard from Zaijiang that this particle world is an ordinary world with nothing special about it. To think that there would actually be a spirituality weapon here. How unexpected. An expression of interest appeared on the young man's face. There were countless particle worlds around the immortal realms, and the vast majority of them had already been excavated by experts of the immortal realms. Not all particle worlds were useless. On the contrary, there were some unique particle worlds that were extremely famous. Among these famous particle worlds, there were some that gave birth to countless geniuses who were innately suited for cultivation. For example, there were some unique particle worlds where the people of the particle worlds all had extremely high innate talent, such as spatial affinity. There were also some particle worlds that gave birth to many powerful weaponsmiths who were innately proficient in forging. The people of these particle worlds all had a strong tradition of forging. The Royal Sacred Region could be considered an extremely ordinary particle world. This was why no one paid attention to it. I was also very surprised and even got hit by a sword. If it wasn't for my reaction being fast enough, I might have fallen in this native world. Immortal Han sinisterly stated. Back then, he had truly been in a perilous situation. Even at the same cultivation level, there were differences in combat prowess. He and Li Mubai were at the same cultivation level, but in terms of combat prowess, Immortal Han had always been one of the most outstanding among his peers. He didn't expect Li Mubai to be so powerful as well, especially after borrowing the power of the demon sword. If they continued fighting to the death, the one to die would definitely be him. Enough talk. I don't have time to waste on this barbaric place. Where's the sword? Let's go get it. The young man coldly spoke, his voice filled with a domineering aura. He led the experts from the War Immortal Palace here. The sword naturally belonged to him. As for the original owner of the sword, it was no longer important. I will bring senior brother there right away. Immortal Han spoke. Let's move out. Let's go. The silhouettes of the group flickered as they soared through the air, transforming into beams of white light. Numerous spatial scars actually appeared in the air, not even having the time to dissipate. From this, one could very well imagine how fast their speed was. In the sacred royal city, many people inclined their heads and stared at the sky. A powerful astral wind tore through the air, churning the clouds, but they couldn't see any silhouettes. How fast? Who are these people? How strong are they exactly? Many people could only see shadows when they sensed the wind. That should be the sacred emperor of the royal sacred sect. Seems like they are going to act again. Right now, many people in the sacred royal city were already numb. The war between the royal sacred sect and the medicine sovereign valley far surpassed their imagination. Right now, for those below the sacred emperor and medicine sovereign level, they didn't even have the qualifications to participate in the war. In order to prevent meaningless casualties, the medicine sovereign had even temporarily disbanded the medicine sovereign valley. In the medicine sovereign valley, on an ancient peak, Li Mubai and the others had always been there. But at this moment, Li Mubai's countenance drastically changed. With a wave of his hand, a flying boat appeared in the air. Li Mubai directly pulled Qin Wentian and the others into it. Not good, let's go. Li Mubai exclaimed in shock. The medicine sovereign also instantly boarded the flying boat. After which, he took out an immortal talisman and infused it with immortal light. Resplendent spatial energy enveloped them, and in an instant, the group of them vanished from sight, reappearing at a location a few thousand miles away. After they reappeared, they had no intentions of stopping. That flying boat shone with immortal light as they sped forward with great speed. The people from the War Immortal Palace have indeed interfered. Not only that, there are quite a few of them. Li Mubai didn't feel too surprised. From their actions, he could tell that they had long been prepared. The moment they sensed something was wrong, they immediately fled. You guys won't be able to escape. A voice drifted over from afar. The countenances of Li Mubai and the medicine sovereign drastically changed. They also have spatial-type treasures. They locked onto our spatial fluctuations and directly teleported over to kill us. Li Mubai was very knowledgeable in the immortal realms. He naturally understood what was going on. If not, he wouldn't have controlled the flying boat to advance at such a high speed. Qin Wentian's expression was extremely unsightly to behold. He turned his head and stared behind, only to see beams of immortal light flashing behind him. Fast, their speed was too fast, so fast that he couldn't even see the appearances of those people clearly. He also had several spatial scrolls on him, but in the face of such speed, they were completely useless. The teleportation distance of his spatial scrolls couldn't even be compared to the teleportation of others. Senior, let me lead the way. As long as we can delay them for a period of time, everything will be settled soon. Qin Wentian spoke in a loud voice. Li Mubai glanced at him. Okay, you lead the way then. Quick, quick. The medicine sovereign was also anxious. This flying boat was a speed-type treasure, and was already very fast. However, his opponents were the same as them, possessing speed-type divine treasures. There was basically no way for them to widen the distance between them. Kill. Immortal Han had a cold expression on his face, as a terrifying blood-colored glow radiated from him. The experts below inclined their heads and stared at the sky only to see a towering blood-colored light sweeping over them. Many people below were directly transformed into blood mist as they exploded. After which, the blood chi from their corpses gushed towards Immortal Han. How vicious! Mo Qingqing turned pale when she saw the scene. This Immortal Han was too vicious, he actually killed his way through the air. Go to the air. The medicine sovereign spoke. Li Mubai immediately controlled the flying boat, and soared up into the air. Immortal Han malevolently spoke. I already said you guys won't be able to escape. Little brat, your sword isn't bad, my senior brother has taken a liking to it. As for that woman, this seat has taken a liking to her. You better obediently hand her over, and I will leave your corpse intact. As Immortal Han slaughtered, his voice drifted into Qin Wentian's ears, causing Qin Wentian's expression to turn malevolent. You will die. Qin Wentian spoke in rage. As expected, these experts from the immortal realms basically didn't care about the lives of the people of their particle world. They were all cruel and cold. Soon we will arrive soon. At this speed, we won't need too much time. Qin Wentian silently mused. He could sense the location of the other body. Based on this terrifying speed, it wouldn't take too long before they arrived. I will die. Are you talking in your sleep? Immortal Han coldly laughed. Qin Wentian, back then you were too full of yourself, thinking that you can become enemies with my royal sacred sect just because you have the support of the medicine sovereign. You only have yourself to blame for everything that happened today. The sacred emperor Zixing coldly spoke. Your other friend should have already been brought away by her clan to the immortal realms. How would those major characters who are familiar with the Eastern Sage immortal realms still remember a genius from a country bumpkin world like you? Only by killing you would I be able to sever all contact with you. If I don't kill you, I won't be able to rest easy. The sacred emperor was naturally referring to Qing. That person had once threatened the royal sacred sect, but sadly, she was brought to the immortal realms and no longer bothered with Qin Wentian. It was unknown if it was because Qin Wentian had disappointed her when the Dongxing Heaven Emperor accepted him as a disciple. In any case, if Qin Wentian was alive and went to the immortal realms, he might still be able to contact her. But if he died, all contact would be severed. Also, back then you almost had the chance to join the tutelage of a supreme existence. You truly shocked me. Sadly, you were abandoned in the end. Numerous voices drifted into Qin Wentian's ears. This genius that the sacred emperor initially didn't even place in his eyes had truly shocked the sacred emperor. This was why he was saying these words now. Not good. If this continues on, we will soon enter the range of their attacks. The medicine sovereign's eyes flashed with a ruthless light when he saw the distance between them being shortened. I can't hold on any longer. I will delay them. You guys leave first. Don't. Qin Wentian shouted. It's almost over. Just hold on a little longer. Little brat, focus on your cultivation in the future. Your future lies in the boundless starry space. Also, your background might be extraordinary as well. I should have died long ago. Now that I'm able to fight for you, it can already be considered a perfect ending. The medicine sovereign patted Qin Wentian's head, revealing for the first time that he had a connection with Qin Wentian. Senior medicine sovereign, it's almost over. Trust me. Qin Wentian knew that the medicine sovereign didn't believe him. After all, what strength did he, Qin Wentian, have to contend against experts from the War Immortal Palace? It's already too late. The medicine sovereign saw that his opponents were already attempting to attack, and they had almost succeeded. The time of your deaths has arrived. Immortal Han's cold voice rang out. The blood light had already extended to the flying boat. Yet at this moment, the medicine sovereign flung Qin Wentian's hand away. He stepped out as boundless immortal fire blazed around him. Chapter 738. No. Qin Wentian turned pale when he saw the medicine sovereign disregarding everything and walking out himself. Master. Mo Qingqing was similarly pale. Both of them turned their heads and stared at the immortal flames in the air. Senior, please stop. Qin Wentian roared at Li Mubai. Li Mubai ignored him. He stared at Qin Wentian. The medicine sovereign spared no expense to create an opportunity for you. Are you really not going to leave? Senior, send me back. Qin Wentian's gaze was filled with determination. Send me back as well. Mo Qingqing added. Fine. I'm used to enduring humiliation in the immortal realms. I no longer have any hot-bloodedness. Li Mubai's eyes flickered with a smile. With an intention of his will, the flying boat abruptly turned and flew back the way it came from. In an instant, it returned to where the medicine sovereign was at. Over there, the medicine sovereign was already fighting against the experts from the War Immortal Palace. At this moment, the medicine sovereign radiated a towering destructive aura, causing those experts from the War Immortal Palace to feel trepidation. They actually returned. Are they courting death? Immortal Han laughed maniacally when he saw the flying boat returning. Li Mubai, you bastard. The medicine sovereign cursed. Old man, it's rare for us to find our hot-bloodedness again. Don't be so angry. Actually, Wentian is right. Although the immortal realms are fascinating, it's also somewhat stifling. Li Mubai laughed as sword chi towered up into the sky. Let's return to our homeland for our final battle. How hot-blooded. The young man in the lead from the War Immortal Palace had a look of disdain on his face. Boundless immortal light radiated from his fist as a towering immortal might gushed forth. An ant trying to shake a tree, simply courting death. Wait a minute. Qin Wentian walked up. Didn't you guys want the sword? I'll give it to you. Just take it. After speaking, Qin Wentian flicked his hand, tossing the demon sword towards his opponent. Upon seeing this scene, the destructive aura from the young man didn't erupt forth. He stretched his hand out and caught the demon sword. The demon sword hummed, as though it was unhappy. As expected, the sword gained sentience. A look of joy appeared on the young man's face. He caressed the sword as a dazzling light flickered in his eyes. Follow me from now on. He doesn't deserve to have you. The young man smiled faintly. At this time, Qin Wentian was burning with anxiety. They were almost there. He had to stall for time. Swords and women. Are you willing to give them to me? Immortal Han laughed maniacally, turning his gaze onto Mo Qingcheng. In the immortal realms, he didn't have the qualifications to lay his hands on such beauties. But in this country bumpkin world, wasn't it all up to him? I'm afraid you can't bear it, Qin Wentian said coldly. Haha, are you joking? Immortal Han stepped out as a cold aura permeated the air. After which, a terrifying devouring light manifested as a destructive might envelop Qin Wentian. Do you think you can live just by handing over the sword? Even if you hand over the women, it won't be enough. Your blood chi will be mine, and these people will all die, said Immortal Han arrogantly. Stop talking nonsense. Kill them all. If you want the woman, you can keep her. The young man loved the demon sword so much that he couldn't bear to part with it. He no longer had any interest in the woman. For people in the immortal realms, strength was always the #1 priority. Only with strength would one have the qualifications to enjoy. Right. Immortal Han nodded. The 2 generations of sacred emperors stepped out as killing intent gushed forth from them. You shouldn't have returned. The medicine sovereign sighed. If Qin Wentian died, how could he face those people? Senior Sword Saint, use your sword chi to protect us. Qin Wentian spoke. Li Mubai nodded his head as beams of immortal light transformed into a screen of swords, enveloping everyone, not allowing Qin Wentian to be killed. Everything should end now. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath. He stared at his opponent as he spoke. People from the War Immortal Palace, you are not worthy enough to wield this sword. Also, in this royal sacred region, the name of the royal sacred sect will no longer exist in the future. Qin Wentian's voice suddenly turned incomparably arrogant. This scene caused the experts from the War Immortal Palace to start as expressions of interest appeared on their faces. However, after that, the young man frowned. Something's wrong. What was that aura? He could feel that they were all locked onto. Everyone here was locked onto. What's going on? Immortal Han's countenance changed as a terrifying aura enveloped him. Bzz. Beams of immortal light flashed. Each one so bright that it was blinding. In just an instant, numerous figures descended from the sky, descending unceasingly. In just a short instant, tens of people had already appeared, and the number was still increasing. Bzz. More and more experts appeared. The atmosphere in this space was stifling. These people were all shrouded in immortal halos. They were all Immortal Foundation experts. What's going on? Isn't this an ordinary country bumpkin world? Why would so many immortals suddenly appear? The eyes of the young man in the lead from the War Immortal Palace froze. For a country bumpkin world like the Royal Sacred Sect, it was impossible for them to have so many experts. The 2 generations of sacred emperors were stunned as well. Immortal Han's arrogant smile froze on his face. These experts were clearly targeting them, their auras locked onto them. Not only for them, even Li Mubai and the medicine sovereign were stunned. Nobody knew of Tian's existence. Earlier, Qin Wentian kept saying that he would arrive soon, but they didn't believe him. They also didn't understand why Qin Wentian would say this. However, the scene before their eyes directly caused them to be dumbfounded. When they thought back to the words of Qin Wentian earlier, were these experts related to Qin Wentian? We are from the War Immortal Palace of the Immortal Realms. I wonder if we have disturbed you all? The young man in the lead clasped his hands at the crowd. His tone was much more courteous, and there was no trace of the arrogant attitude he had before. Among the immortals, a figure wearing a bronze mask and clad in metal armor slowly walked over. Only his eyes were exposed, and they were incomparably cold. That pair of pupils seemed to be different from ordinary people. It was a pair of extremely unique eyes. This mysterious man might very well be the leader of these immortals. Sorry for disturbing you. The young man from the War Immortal Palace spoke to Di Tian, who just appeared. Di Tian's gaze slowly turned over, landing on Qin Wentian. The two of them were originally the same person. He was none other than Qin Wentian. However, this secret couldn't be revealed. Hence he still had to put on an act. You have arrived. Qin Wentian calmly spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, the hearts of the experts from the War Immortal Palace trembled. This calm voice sounded like it belonged to a friend of many years. How should we deal with them? Di Tian coldly asked. He naturally already knew how to deal with them. Kill them all without mercy. Qin Wentian slowly turned his gaze over, staring at the young man from the War Immortal Palace as he icily spoke. I've already said it. You won't be able to wield this sword. He then turned to Immortal Han. You will die very miserably. Finally, his gaze landed on the two sacred emperors as he coldly spoke. From today onwards, the royal sacred sect shall be removed from the royal sacred region. The hegemon of this particle world shall belong to the Medicine Sovereign Valley. Your foolishness has caused the death of a member of the royal sacred sect. Kill them all without mercy, don't leave a single one alive. Qin Wentian's icy voice rang out, causing the experts from the War Immortal Palace to feel a chill down their spines. The eyes of the experts from the War Immortal Palace shifted over, staring at the bronze-masked Di Tian. He should be the one giving the orders, right? Sir, we can discuss things further. If we have offended you in any way, we can make it up to you. Di Tian's eyes were cold as he spoke. His words are what I wanted to say. Kill them all without mercy, don't leave a single one alive. It's been a long time since I exercised my muscles. A cold laugh rang out. This entire space transformed into a world domain, filled with fiery red ancient vines that enveloped the entire space. The ancient vines directly shot towards the experts from the War Immortal Palace. The others also unleashed their immortal might. At this instant, the experts from the War Immortal Palace all had looks of despair on their faces. These people were so powerful, some of them even established multiple immortal foundations. We are people from the War Immortal Palace. Do you guys really want to do this? The young man roared. He stared at Qin Wentian as he coldly threatened. I don't care who these people are. You better think clearly about the consequences. Qin Wentian's countenance was ice cold. He stared at Di Tian and spoke. In that case, let's show them if their War Immortal Palace dares to stand against us. Right. Di Tian nodded. Everyone come out together then. Haha, how arrogant. What power is the War Immortal Palace? Brazen laughter rang out as a stifling pressure gushed forth. In this world domain, more and more experts appeared. Tens, hundreds, there were even more, densely packed together. This entire world seemed to be filled with Immortal Foundation experts. The young man from the War Immortal Palace trembled. The two sacred emperors from the royal sacred region felt their bodies go soft, unable to muster any strength. How can this be? How can this be? Where did these experts come from? My heart. Li Mubai swallowed his saliva, feeling his throat going dry. He stared at Qin Wentian as a strange light flashed in his eyes. Where did this fellow befriend him? How could he be able to command so many Immortal Foundation experts? Could this be the sect Qin Wentian mentioned to him before? That's right. Back then Qin Wentian mentioned the matter of him taking Qin Wentian as his master, but he didn't explain it in detail. Not only for Li Mubai, the medicine sovereign thought so as well. Seems like this little fellow still had some secrets. Kill, kill. Don't leave a single one alive. I want this man to die 1,000 times over. Qin Wentian pointed to Immortal Han as he spoke. Immortal Han's countenance turned as pale as paper. Right. The immortals laughed as they rushed over. The experts from the War Immortal Palace stood in the middle, their bodies trembling. They even forgot to resist. How could they resist? Many of their opponents had higher cultivation bases compared to them. In terms of numbers, they could easily drown them. This was already sufficient to contend against the entire War Immortal Palace. I really died in a particle world. I actually died in a particle world. The young man from the War Immortal Palace was incomparably enraged. He stared at Immortal Han and the old sacred Emperor Zaijiang as he roared. You two bastards, causing me to die here. Arg, I can't accept this. I still want to pursue a higher cultivation base. His talent in the War Immortal Palace was considered extremely good. He was very young, but his cultivation base was extremely high. Yet he died so mysteriously in a particle world. His heart was filled with boundless reluctance, but his fate was already sealed. Chapter 739. Qin Wentian's countenance was ice cold as he stared at the destructive beams of light shooting towards them. He didn't feel any sympathy at all. In the eyes of these people from the immortal realms, the people of this particle world of the royal sacred region, were existences they could kill as they pleased. Even when they were chasing after them, Immortal Han was still madly slaughtering them, devouring their blood and chi for his own use. This was simply too cruel and evil. Chi. There was an Immortal Foundation expert who was proficient in saber arts who was extremely powerful. A blood-colored devil saber glowed with terrifying runic light, and every time he slashed out, a terrifying diagram of slaughter would appear. The people from the War Immortal Palace couldn't even withstand a single saber strike from him. All of them died one after another. Arg, that young man went crazy when he saw this scene. His Immortal Foundation radiated boundless immortal light. You want to self-destruct? The countenances of the immortals were cold. One of them blasted out with a palm strike, instantly causing an icy river to descend from the heavens. The entire world transformed into a world of ice that resembled diamonds. The translucent ice crystals sealed the young man within. You still want to self-destruct your Immortal Foundation under such circumstances? That person snorted coldly. After that, he blasted out with his palm, slamming into the ice crystals. A crisp cracking sound rang out as the entire space shattered together with the ice crystals. The body of that young man from the War Immortal Palace also shattered as he was directly killed. There were 9 levels of Immortal Foundation, and the disparity between each level was extremely great. This young man had already established a 6th level Immortal Foundation, and was extremely powerful. How could that young man with a 3rd level Immortal Foundation compare to him? Chi. A light sound rang out as Immortal Han screamed in agony. That young man slashed out with the saber light from hell, sliced off one of Immortal Han's arms, directly tearing it apart. Immortal Han stared venomously at Qin Wentian as he howled in madness. Even if I die, I will curse you. You will die a graveless death, and your woman will become the plaything of others. Senior, don't let him die so easily. Slice his body piece by piece, slice by slice, slice by slice. Qin Wentian's eyes turned cold. That saber-wielding immortal spoke. Find this punishment is extremely painful. Let him have a taste of it. As he spoke, he slashed out with his saber. This saber strike directly penetrated into Immortal Han's body, lacerating his bones and muscles. Ah! Immortal Han screamed. You don't care about other people's lives and you're cursing me? You deserve to die a horrible death. Qin Wentian's voice was emotionless. That saber-wielding expert slashed out again and again. Immortal Han's screams rang out unceasingly as he endured the most terrifying torture. He couldn't die even if he wanted to. Kill me! Immortal Han howled. He was truly in despair. This pain was too unbearable. He no longer had any hope of survival. He only wished for death. When you slaughtered at will, did you ever think that this would happen? The medicine sovereign walked up and stared at Immortal Han. His countenance was as cold as ice. Immortal Han deserved to die. Even such torture wasn't sufficient to atone for his sins. Those disciples of the Medicine Sovereign Valley who were killed by him, as well as the innocent people of the royal sacred region, would never be able to come back to life. Medicine Sovereign, we are willing to submit to you. Please spare us. The strength of the sacred emperor could be considered one of the weaker ones, yet no one actually dared to kill him. They merely locked him there, watching as the experts of the War Immortal Palace died one by one. His trembling body told everyone that he was truly afraid. Even if he was an immortal, a hegemon of an era, he would still feel fear when facing death. He was the hegemon of the royal sacred region, the sacred emperor that controlled everything under the heavens. But at this moment, his life was no longer in his hands. Spare you? Dream on. The Medicine Sovereign coldly spoke. His silhouette flickered as he instantly appeared before the sacred emperor. A terrifying immortal fire blasted into the body of the sacred emperor, causing the sacred emperor to struggle violently. The Medicine Sovereign retreated, and with a thunderous boom, the body of the sacred emperor directly exploded, leaving behind a trail of destructive fire. Very swiftly, other than Immortal Han, everyone from the War Immortal Palace had been killed. Immortal Han was still being tortured, only then did Qin Wentian speak. Finish him. No problem. That saber-wielding expert chopped down with his saber, cleaving Immortal Han into two, directly shattering his immortal foundation. Because of this, the group of cultivators from the Immortal of War, who were arrogant earlier, had all died. Not a single one was left alive. Li Mubai didn't act at all. He had experienced many battles in the immortal realms, and had also witnessed some battles from afar. But when he personally participated in a battle, this battle was undoubtedly the most shocking. It was truly a case of coming back from death's door. Several hundred immortals. Where did they come from? Tian, is there anything else you need us to do? The red-haired old man stared at the masked Tian as he asked. Many thanks to seniors for helping out. For now, there should be no other matters. I will have to trouble all of you. Tian's voice contained a unique sharpness, like his mask and armor, giving off an extremely cold feeling. The Tian at this moment caused all the immortals to feel a sense of pressure. Although he was still very young now, it was highly possible that he would inherit the War Immortal Palace in the future, and become a character that stood at the peak of the immortal realms. Tian, you are too polite. We just came out, and we can already exercise our muscles and bones. This is exactly what we wanted. It has been so many years before we could breathe properly. It's all thanks to you. What does such a small matter count for? Who else do you want to kill? Just tell us and we will do it right away. That saber-wielding expert straightforwardly spoke. Regardless of Tian's potential or the kindness he had shown them, they felt that they should be on good terms with the current Tian. Indeed. Tian replied. Tian, if the War Immortal Palace is a power from the immortal realms, we might still suffer from repercussions after killing so many people earlier. The red-haired old man spoke. How about this? Since you said that there's nothing wrong, we can set our hearts at ease. However, we will still leave a strand of immortal sense in this particle world. We will leave our immortal sense wherever you want us to. If a power from the immortal realms comes for revenge, our immortal sense will appear, and as long as they aren't too strong, they wouldn't dare to act impudently. After all, it's very normal for a sect in the immortal realms to have their members killed when they went out to temper themselves. Unless it's a descendant of the sect leader or sect leader, they wouldn't dare to take revenge. Senior's words make sense. Tian nodded. After which, he turned to Qin Wentian. Although they were one person, now that he had transformed into Tian's body, he mustn't let others know about this. In that case, it was better for his true self to say some things. Wentian, what do you think? Seniors, please follow us back to the Royal Sacred Sect. After we destroy them, we will announce to the world that the Medicine Sovereign Valley will be the hegemon of this world. Seniors, please leave your immortal sense in the Medicine Sovereign Valley. Qin Wentian spoke. Right, we have no objections. Everyone nodded. This young man seemed to have an extraordinary relationship with Tian. Also, his aura was similar to Tian's in the past. There was a high possibility that they were blood brothers. Let's move out then. Ditian spoke. A moment later, the group of them moved towards the direction of the sacred royal city. On the way, Ditian walked to the side of Qin Wentian and passed some interspatial treasures to Qin Wentian. These were the spoils of war they plundered from the experts from the War Immortal Palace. Those immortals didn't want them and gave them to Ditian. As for Ditian, he was preparing to follow the old man from the War Immortal Palace to roam the myriad of particle worlds. If he needed resources, he could just open his mouth and ask the old man for them. Hence, it was more appropriate to leave the spoils of war to his original self. In the royal sacred sect, the various factions gathered together and waited in a gigantic training ground. They were waiting for the sacred emperor and the experts from the War Immortal Palace to return in victory. This battle would be the doomsday of the Medicine Sovereign Valley. From now onwards, there would no longer be a Medicine Sovereign Valley in the royal sacred region. Everyone in the world would understand who was the hegemon of this world. At this moment, a silhouette flickered over. Ziyin stared at that person as he coldly asked, "Have you found them?" "Nope. The Forgotten Immortal Tower seems to have completely disbanded. They didn't move out as a group," that person replied. During these few days, everyone's attention was on the war. Nobody would have thought that the Forgotten Immortal Tower would actually secretly disperse their forces. By the time they discovered this, they only managed to capture a small number of people. Damn. After this matter is over, we must definitely capture them back and distribute the beauties of the Forgotten Immortal Tower to the various factions. Ziyan's voice was ice cold as he continued. This entire world belongs to my royal sacred sect. I really want to see where a bunch of females from the Forgotten Immortal Tower can run to. Haha, this time around we are in luck. There are still many beauties in the Forgotten Immortal Tower, and all of them are extremely hot and spicy. We have to properly control them. An expert from the Qinghua Mountain coldly laughed. Let's wait and see. This matter will be concluded very soon. The Sacred Emperor and the others will return in victory soon. Zaixian was very confident. How could the people of this particle world stand a chance against the War Immortal Palace? They were all dead for sure. They were all waiting, feeling extremely agitated in their hearts. The heavenly sacred sect's position as the hegemon of the royal sacred sect was constantly being challenged, and they had no way to eradicate the Medicine Sovereign Valley. This caused them to be extremely unhappy. Now everything would finally be over. You won't be able to wait for them. An ancient voice drifted over, resounding through the airspace of the royal sacred sect. At this instant, the hearts of countless people in the royal sacred sect pounded violently, after which, a stifling pressure descended from the skies. From afar, several silhouettes appeared. Each and every one of them was so powerful that it caused one to feel stifled. The Medicine Sovereign, it's the Medicine Sovereign. There's also the Sword Saintly Mubai. The countenances of the experts from the Royal Sacred Sect instantly turned as pale as paper. How could this be possible? The War Immortal Palace was defeated? Where did these experts come from? Numerous figures descended. The Medicine Sovereign, Li Mubai, Qin Wentian and the others were all here, coldly staring at the experts from the Royal Sacred Sect below. This is impossible. Where are the experts from the War Immortal Palace? Zaixian's countenance turned ashen. They were all panicking in their hearts. The experts from the various factions were all panicking. Many of them were trembling uncontrollably. They are all dead, vanishing forever. However, they don't care about loneliness. Very soon, you guys will accompany them. The Royal Sacred Sect proclaims themselves to be the hegemon of this world. Could it be that the entire world belongs to your Royal Sacred Sect? This sentence ends here. From today onwards, there is no place for the Royal Sacred Sect in this world. As long as it's someone from the Royal Sacred Sect, kill them all. Qin Wentian's cold voice drifted down from the heavens. There was no mercy in his heart. The victors were the kings while the losers were vilified. An era has ended. Chapter 740. The Royal Sacred Sect had governed the world for tens of thousands of years. They boasted that the entire world belonged to them, and there was no one they couldn't kill because they had the strongest combat prowess. They were arrogant and tyrannical, treating the lives of the people of the world as grass. Their sacred prince Zaixian was high up in the air, disregarding everything and everyone, calling the people of the royal sacred region country bumpkins, and helping the immortal realms to capture the maidens of the sacred royal city. Everything would come to an end on this day. An era ended. Zaiyan, Zaixian and Zaiqiu were now prisoners, awaiting their trial. As direct descendants of the royal sacred sect, as the descendants of the sacred emperor, how glorious and tyrannical were they. Zaiqiu even invited Qin to hunt them down, disregarding everything. But today they could only wait for death. At this moment, Zaixian, Zaiqiu and the others all had stupefied expressions on their faces as they stared at Qin Wentian in the air. Zaiqiu's countenance contorted. He had no way to accept this situation. Originally, he should be the one looking down on Qin Wentian, dictating his life. Why did things become so ridiculous? Who are you guys exactly? Zaiyan stared at the immortals in the air as he roared. There's no need for you to know. The masked Tian coldly replied. Kill them all. Right. The immortals laughed. That saber-wielding expert was the fastest. With a simple slash, it felt as though it wanted to split the heavens apart. With just a simple slash, everyone in the path of the saber-wielding expert was instantly annihilated, causing the experts of the royal sacred sect to be so frightened that their guts were about to shatter. Only now did they realize that death had already arrived. No, please spare us. We are only a subsidiary power of the royal sacred sect. Senior, please spare our lives. At this moment, some of the powers started to beg for mercy. In front of absolute destructive might, facing the god of death, fear involuntarily rose in their hearts. The first to beg was none other than the leader of the Qinghua mountain. How spineless! A cold voice rang out. After which, a blood-red long spear directly pierced through his head and frenziedly shot out, wanting to kill everything in its path. How could begging be of any use? Back then, when they were helping the royal sacred sect to annihilate the medicine sovereign valley, would they even beg for mercy? Let's settle this quickly. A person in the air coldly spoke. After that, a gigantic palm imprint grabbed downwards. In an instant, the vast space around them turned into diamond-like ice crystals. Shatter! With a wave of his hand, the ice crystals shattered, and the frozen figures inside were all shattered and destroyed. Even Qin Wentian, who was watching from the side, couldn't help but gasp. The gap between realms couldn't be made up for. No wonder people in the celestial realm were called celestials. They could ignore anyone below the celestial realm. Once they reached that level, people below them were already vulnerable. Although there were countless experts in the royal sacred sect, they were like a whirlwind sweeping away the clouds in an instant. They were here to welcome the triumphant return of the experts from the War Immortal Palace, but what awaited them was a true doomsday. After the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, the vast royal sacred sect was in shambles, with no signs of life at all. Fresh blood dyed this hegemon of the world red. The hegemon of this world yesterday had been raised to flat ground today. Who would have thought that such an ending would occur? If the people of the royal sacred sect could think of this, they wouldn't have offended Qin Wentian back then, choosing to recruit Qin Wentian and nurture him with all their might. Even if Qin Wentian wasn't willing to join the core faction of the royal sacred sect, if he joined the battlesword faction, he would still be considered a member of the royal sacred sect. If that was the case, the ending would be completely different. However, the matters of the world were always so mysterious. As the hegemon of this world, how could the royal sacred sect care about a mere world? A single wrong thought could cause the entire building to collapse. From today onwards, the royal sacred sect would no longer exist in this world. In fact, whether this world would still be known as the royal sacred region was a question. The new hegemon, the medicine sovereign valley, would the shadow of the royal sacred sect still remain in this world? Qin Wentian and the others directly turned and departed from the royal sacred sect. This place would become history, a symbol of the destruction of an era. After they left, there were people secretly observing the situation of the royal sacred sect from afar. Upon feeling the deathly stillness, there were more and more people who dared to enter the royal sacred sect. When they saw the wreckage and dried blood on the ground, they only felt their hearts pounding violently, as though they were being hammered by a heavy object. The shock they felt was indescribable with words, as though their souls were about to leave their bodies. The royal sacred sect has been destroyed. A person stood there in a daze as he mumbled. Someone inclined his head and drew in a deep breath as he roared to the heavens. The royal sacred sect has been destroyed. His voice was like a bell that signaled the end of an era, ringing throughout St. Royal City and the entire royal sanctuary. Hence, the news of the royal sacred sect's destruction spread to every corner of this world at the fastest speed in history, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble. A hegemon of an era had been destroyed. In fact, there were even people who didn't dare to believe this. They inclined their heads and stared at the sky as they mumbled to themselves. Has the royal sacred sect really been destroyed? It seemed like it, because everyone was passing on the news of the royal sacred region's destruction. The sacred royal city was in an uproar. The major powers of the royal sacred region were in an uproar. The 9 great sects, the aristocratic clans, ancient countries, all of them were trembling. Those from the Medicine Sovereign Valley, the Battle Sword sect, the royal clan of Yi. All of them had smiles on their faces as they stared in the direction of the sacred royal city. After that, they all departed from their respective locations, heading towards the direction of the sacred royal city once again. Not only them, the various aristocratic clans, ancient countries, and great sects all gathered in the direction of the sacred royal city. In fact, there were many people who didn't belong to any sects or clans. All of them headed towards the direction of the sacred royal city. These people gathered together like a terrifying tidal wave, akin to the might of the entire world. The destruction of the royal sacred sect, the rise of the Medicine Sovereign Valley. This was the irresistible trend of the world. Those from the Medicine Sovereign Valley had returned. The aristocratic clans, ancient countries, and great sects all came to pay their respects to the new hegemon. The people of the world came to observe, to witness the destruction of the royal sacred sect, and to witness the rise of the Medicine Sovereign Valley. The sacred royal city was unprecedentedly lively. Countless people entered the sacred royal city. It was even more bustling compared to the era of the royal sacred sect. Today, outside the Medicine Sovereign Valley, the leaders of the various aristocratic clans, ancient countries, and great sects all arrived, paying their respects at the same time. It was just that out of the 7 great clans, the D clan and Qi clan were missing. They died together with the destruction of the Medicine Sovereign Valley. At this moment, several female silhouettes walked out, arriving at the bottom of the stairway leading to the Medicine Sovereign Valley. The Tower Lord of the Forgotten Immortal Tower is here to beg for Senior Medicine Sovereign's forgiveness. Before this, our Forgotten Immortal Tower had already separated from the Royal Sacred Sect, which was why we were able to survive the previous battle. Right now, we are here to beg for Senior Medicine Sovereign's forgiveness. The Forgotten Immortal Tower reined in the horse at the precipice of the precipice. What crime did you commit? In the future, don't commit any unrighteous acts. Go. An aged voice drifted over, causing the members of the Forgotten Immortal Tower to have excited smiles on their faces. They were all extremely happy. Initially, they were still filled with trepidation. They didn't expect that Senior Medicine Sovereign would forgive them so easily. The Medicine Sovereign Valley was truly different from the Royal Sacred Sect. Many thanks to Senior Medicine Sovereign. Many members of the Forgotten Immortal Tower knelt on one knee and bowed before retreating. After they left, the Tower Lord spoke to a female beside him. Fan Miaoyu, why don't you join the Medicine Sovereign Valley in the future? Since you are acquainted with Qin Wentian, there shouldn't be any problems if he introduces you to him. Fan Miaoyu was none other than one of the 8 era-suppressing geniuses, the only female among them. But I'm not that familiar with him either. Fan Miaoyu's beautiful eyes flashed with a bright light. When she inclined her head, she only saw someone smiling at her from afar. This person was also a female, and was even more beautiful than her. It was none other than the #1 beauty in the world, Lin Xian from the Celestial Maiden sect. She came as well. Fan Miaoyu mused in her heart. Lin Xian's relationship with Qin Wentian wasn't bad at all. After the Forgotten Immortal Tower left, the various powers all went up to seek an audience with Senior Medicine Sovereign. The sect leader of the Celestial Maiden sect didn't come out, but Lin Xian was the one who requested an audience. All of you can leave. The Medicine Sovereign Valley won't be like the Royal Sacred Sect, dominating the world. The Medicine Sovereign will remain the same as before, hoping that this world will become stronger. You can all leave now. The aged voice was calm, causing everyone to draw in a deep breath. Senior Medicine Sovereign was truly an extraordinary character. But even if the Medicine Sovereign Valley didn't dominate the world, it was still the uncrowned king. There was no need to doubt this point. Xian lass, come in and accompany Qingqing for a chat. That voice drifted over again, causing many to be silently envious of Lin Xian. Seems like the relationship between the number one beauty and Qin Wentian had taken effect. Although the Medicine Sovereign said that Mo Qingqing wanted to see her, the one who wanted to see her was still Qin Wentian. After all, they were friends. The various powers dispersed one after another, but none of them left the sacred royal city. They were still waiting to see the direction of the wind. After a long time, the Medicine Sovereign Valley was still as calm as before. Only then did the enthusiasm of the people in the sacred royal city fade away as the various powers left the sacred royal city. Everything returned to a state of tranquility. The end of an era. Right now it was transitioning to a new era. However, the people of the world were still working hard in their cultivation, fighting each other, pursuing their own paths of cultivation. In the Grand Xia Empire, when the people of Grand Xia learned that the Medicine Sovereign Valley had dominated the world, they were all filled with emotions. They naturally heard of Qin Wentian's name, and knew that the most important person in this war was none other than Qin Wentian. In fact, there were even rumors that the person who played the most important role in the destruction of the Royal Sacred Sect was none other than their emperor, Qin Wentian. However, the person who controlled this storm, Qin Wentian, was currently living an extremely peaceful life. He didn't care about the matters of the outside world. He was calming his heart and quietly watching the winds and clouds change. This world was merely his starting point. Chapter 741. The destruction of the Royal Sacred Sect told the world that no matter how powerful a hegemon was, there would still be a day of destruction. There was no such thing as an eternal existence. As to why the Royal Sacred Sect was destroyed so early, it was naturally because of its many unjust actions, hastening its destruction. If not, Qin Wentian wouldn't have stood on the opposing side of the Royal Sacred Sect, and the Medicine Sovereign Valley wouldn't have started a war with the Royal Sacred Sect. In fact, the Medicine Sovereign Valley even chose to live in seclusion, and no one knew that the mysterious and low-profile Medicine Sovereign had already become an immortal. After knowing that the hegemon of the Royal Sacred Sect was replaced, the people of the world felt as though they were in the midst of a tidal wave. However, the low profile of the Medicine Sovereign Valley caused the entire world to be as calm as before, and that tidal wave ultimately didn't appear. Half a year later, everything gradually calmed down. However, out of the 9 great sects, only the Battle Sword sect and the Forgotten Immortal Tower remained. The 2 empires that once ruled over a region had already disintegrated because of the deaths of their rulers. Numerous countries of nobility as well as countless new powers appeared, and they unceasingly waged war on the 2 empires. This war lasted for an entire year, yet no one was able to truly unify the 2 empires once again. They could only accept the current situation, with the various powers occupying the 2 empires separately. This expedition that lasted for a long time had also given birth to many experts and outstanding figures, and their reputations had risen to prominence. However, no matter how intense this war was, it didn't affect the Grand Xia Empire that was once known as the desolate land of the Royal Sacred Region. There was no other reason than because it was rumored that the Grand Xia Empire was the hometown of Qin Wentian. One could ask, in this world, who would dare to touch Qin Wentian's hometown? Although nobody knew exactly how the Royal Sacred Sect was destroyed, there was no doubt that it had something to do with Qin Wentian. And it was precisely when Qin Wentian's name resounded throughout the world that the royal sacred sect started to walk towards destruction. First, they were dragged down from the divine altar by Qin Wentian. At that time, who would dare to imagine that the royal sacred sect would ultimately be destroyed? Time flowed by very quickly. A year had already passed since the destruction of the royal sacred sect. In one of the cities of the Grand Xia Empire, two silhouettes strolled along the streets, attracting the attention of countless people. The two of them were simply too outstanding. The man was handsome and elegant, a rare romantic figure. The woman was like a fairy with a beauty that could topple nations. The two of them held hands and strolled along the ancient street. The sunlight shone on their bodies, interweaving into a painting. These two people were none other than Qin Wentian and Mo Qingcheng. Over the past year or so, the two of them had traveled the world, cultivating wherever they went. The four seas were their home, and they enjoyed this wonderful time. We've already arrived at the Qingzhou continent, and will soon reach the Chu country. At this moment, Mo Qingcheng mumbled in a low voice, as though she couldn't bear to return. That's right, we are about to return to Chu. Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice. Qingcheng, where else do you want to go? I can bring you there. No need. You've been with me for so long. In the blink of an eye, more than a year has passed. It's time for you to leave. Mo Qingcheng lowered her head slightly. Although she was smiling, there was still a hint of sadness in her voice. A year ago, she had already made a promise with Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian would head to the immortal realms alone, and temporarily wouldn't accompany her. Although Qin Wentian couldn't bear to part with Qingcheng, he had no other choice. Right now, his cultivation base had already broken through to the second level of celestial phenomenon. But in the immortal realms, this level of cultivation base was simply insufficient. If he went there himself, he would have to keep a low profile. How would he dare to bring Mo Qingcheng along? According to the words of Sword Saint Li Mubai, the immortal realms were extremely cruel. The strong preyed on the weak. Hence, Qin Wentian decided to temporarily head to the immortal realms first before bringing Mo Qingcheng over. As for the medicine sovereign, after he learned of this matter, he also decided to temporarily stay in the royal sacred region to manage the situation. At the same time, he would focus on teaching Mo Qingcheng. Although she was lacking in terms of cultivation, she had to catch up to Qin Wentian's pace in terms of alchemy. Qin Wentian could sense the sadness in Mo Qingcheng's voice. He was heading to the immortal realms, and it was unknown how long it would be before they parted. How could Mo Qingcheng not be sad? Qin Wentian tightened his grip on Mo Qingcheng's dainty hands as he smiled. I will definitely come back to fetch you as soon as possible. I believe in you. Mo Qingcheng inclined her head and stared at Qin Wentian as a radiant smile appeared on her face. It was as though she was worried that her depressed mood would affect Qin Wentian. Let's go home first. Qin Wentian smiled. Let's go home. Mo Qingcheng also smiled. The two of them increased their speed, and an instant later, they vanished from sight. Many people were still staring at their departing backs. All of a sudden, a strange feeling appeared in their hearts. Why did they vanish just like that? They didn't expect that the two of them would vanish just like that. Such a feeling was extremely strange. Yet it had truly happened. That young man. Why do I feel that he looks so familiar? A person furrowed his brows as though he was contemplating. That young man really did look familiar, but he just couldn't recall where he had seen him before. Why do I have this feeling too? Someone at the side spoke. The two of them exchanged glances as a bolt of lightning flashed through their minds. One of them suddenly trembled as he exclaimed in terror. It's him, that young man who appeared in the air before the Eastern Sage Immortal Emperor. It's rumored that he is Qin Wentian, the Emperor of Grand Xia. The hearts of the two of them pounded. No wonder he had such an extraordinary demeanor. After such a long time, they had almost forgotten about him. This was also because Qin Wentian was too young. When he truly appeared before them, they didn't dare to have any wild thoughts. As for the shock in their hearts, Qin Wentian already had no idea. Time flowed by. In the blink of an eye, another month passed. During this month, Qin Wentian and Mo Qingcheng spent most of their time with their family and friends. They even tossed their cultivation to the side. However, the time they spent together was always so short. Finally, the time for them to separate had arrived. Today, in the ancient kingdom of Grand Xia, there were many people gathered. The medicine sovereign, sword saintly Mubai, the human emperor of Yiqingyuan, Suit Song of the battle sword sect, sword sovereign Ling Tian, and the others were all here. Each and every one of these experts had an aura that deeply shook the hearts of those from Grand Xia. Fairy Qingmei, Old Xing and the others, as well as the leaders of the various transcendent powers of Grand Xia, were all here. Qin Wentian intentionally invited them here, wanting them to feel that they would never dare to have any thoughts of rebelling against Grand Xia. This way, after he left, Grand Xia would still be as stable as Mount Tai. There wouldn't be any disturbances. Qin Wentian's friends naturally arrived as well. Fatty Fanlo, Ouyang Guangxing, Jiang Ting, Chu Meng, Qin Zheng and Yun Mingi were all here. Boss, I really can't bear to part with you. Fatty Fanlo hung around Qin Wentian, hugging Qin Wentian tightly, causing Qin Wentian to roll his eyes as he cursed in a low voice. Damn Fatty, scram for me. Boss, you really can bear to part with me. Fan Lo released Qin Wentian, pretending to wipe away his tears, yet his eyes were still clean, causing Qin Wentian to be completely speechless. Little fellow, even if you can bear to part with this damn fatty, you should be reluctant to part with your senior sister, right? Luo Huan was still clad in a sexy red tight-fitting robe, accentuating her voluptuous figure to perfection, causing people to feel aroused. Sis, of course I can't bear to part with you. Qin Wentian walked forward, gently caressing Luo Huan's hair as he took the initiative to give her a hug, causing her to be stunned for a moment before she giggled and hugged Qin Wentian back. At this moment, her eyes were slightly red. This time, they were really going to part ways. The place Qin Wentian was going to was a different world in the immortal realms, a different sky, valuing a lover over a friend. Fanla sighed in depression. Exactly, valuing a lover over a friend. Do you have any objections? Ouyang Guangxing laughed. You aren't that far off either. Fanla glanced at Jiang Ting, his words causing Jiang Ting to laugh as well. Qin Chuan, Qin Yao, Qin He and Qin Yi naturally arrived as well as Mustang and the others from the Emperor Star Academy. Father. Qin Wentian stared at Qin Chuan, not knowing what to say. Qin Chuan heavily patted Qin Wentian on his shoulders as he laughed. Child, you have grown up. In the future when you roam the heavens and earth, you must remember safety first. Qin Wentian nodded his head, after which he glanced at Qin Yao who was beside him. Qin Yao's eyes were slightly red, as tears flowed down her cheeks. Sis, don't cry. Qin Wentian wiped away the tears on Qin Yao's face. I won't cry. Silly boy, you have to take good care of yourself. Qin Yao did her best to hold back her tears. Qin Wentian hugged her tightly, and Qin Yao's tears once again flowed uncontrollably down her cheeks. Qin Wentian bid farewell to his family and friends, not missing a single person. He even bid farewell to those who had followed him, including those from the Zone clan and the White Deer Institute. When he saw Bai Lui, her innocent eyes were as beautiful as ever, staring at him. Qin Wentian smiled at her. Little E, work hard. You will definitely become a grandmaster in the future. Take care. Bai Lui didn't know what to feel in her heart. This young man who had once studied divine inscriptions with her in the White Deer Cavern was now going to the immortal realms. I will. Qin Wentian nodded. Can you? At this moment, Bai Lui blushed. Qin Wentian asked, what's wrong? Bai Lui stepped forwards, hugging Qin Wentian with both her hands, causing Qin Wentian to be taken aback. After which, Bai Lui laughed. Qin Wentian, do you know how much you've harmed me? Ever since I met you, I'm afraid that in this lifetime, I would never be able to meet a man more outstanding than you. After speaking, Bai Lui turned and walked away. Her elder brother Bai Lu Jing waved his hands at Qin Wentian, while Qin Wentian sighed in his heart as he stared at her beautiful back view. Those from the White Deer Institute were sighing as well. Bai Lui was right. She and Qin Wentian could be considered old friends. After getting to know Qin Wentian, it would be extremely difficult for her to meet anyone who could surpass Qin Wentian. In the future, everyone she met would be compared to Qin Wentian. To Bai Lui, this was simply too cruel. Hey, can Xian'er give you a hug as well? Lin Xian'er walked over to Qin Wentian, smiling sweetly. Sure. Qin Wentian magnanimously replied as he hugged Lin Xian'er as well. Lin Xian'er simply smiled. She's right. In the royal sacred region, I'm afraid I won't be able to find anyone more outstanding than you. I'm afraid I can only go to the immortal realms. Goodbye. After speaking, the number one beauty in the royal sacred region also turned and departed. Compared to Bai Lui, she was much more carefree. Thank you. Qin Wentian stared at the familiar silhouettes as he felt moved in his heart. They were all here to send him off. Finally, Qin Wentian walked to Mo Qingcheng. He held her hand, and even after a long time, he still couldn't bear to let go. Go on. Mo Qingcheng calmly smiled. Wait for me to return. Qin Wentian replied. Mo Qingcheng smiled and nodded, after which Qin Wentian turned and walked to the side of Sword Saint Li Mubai. Everyone, let's meet again in the future. Qin Wentian bids his farewell. Qin Wentian's voice rang out, after which, Li Mubai brought him along as their silhouettes flickered, soaring through the air. Staring at the departing silhouettes, Mo Qingcheng could no longer maintain her smile. Tears flowed unceasingly down her face. Qin Yao was also crying. She had no way to hold back her tears. In fact, Yi Lingshuang was still in Yi Qingyun's embrace, filled with intense sadness. The carefree Luo Huan also shed a tear. Chapter 742. How could Qin Wentian not feel sad as well? But in order to pursue a higher cultivation base, to uncover the secrets of his origins, and to find Qing'er, he had to leave. Right now, there was no longer any pressure in the royal sacred region. This would only hinder his growth. The medicine sovereign stayed behind to guide Mo Qingcheng. In that case, the person who would bring Qin Wentian out was naturally Sword Saint Li Mubai. In the air, Qin Wentian sat on a flying boat that moved with lightning speed, soaring through the air with extreme speed. This sky should be boundless, right? Qin Wentian could no longer see the silhouettes below. Hence, he inclined his head and stared at the sky. There's a formless energy in a particle world that envelopes the entire world. Outside a particle world, there's indeed no world. If people from the royal sacred region want to leave this particle world, they have to have an immortal foundation expert to receive them. Only by breaking the energy of the particle world can they exit. Li Mubai spoke to Qin Wentian, his words causing Qin Wentian to nod his head silently. He could sense the existence of the starry space from the ground, and could even summon astral warbeasts. This also meant that the energy of the particle world was truly formless and not material. After a long time, Qin Wentian didn't even know how high he was now. He could faintly sense that the formless energy was binding him, causing the speed of the flying boat to slow down. Alright, I'm going to break through the barrier. Be prepared. Li Mubai spoke. After that, he brought Qin Wentian along with him and abruptly increased his speed. At this moment, Li Mubai was like a sharp sword. Immortal light revolved around him as a sharp sword from the heavens slammed into the formless void. A terrifying formless energy rippled forth as a buzzing sound rang out. Qin Wentian only felt his vision blurring as a terrifying force directly flung him through the air. At this moment, Qin Wentian only felt a bout of dizziness in his head. But very swiftly, he discovered that his body was floating in the boundless void. Qin Wentian's heart was filled with shock. He stared ahead, only to see a boundlessly resplendent constellation shining with boundless light, illuminating his entire body. Even the starry space around him was completely enveloped by the light. Where's the royal sacred region? Qin Wentian's heart pounded. Over there, we were flung out. That's just a particle. The immortal halo around Li Mubai enveloped Qin Wentian. His finger pointed to a speck of light in the air. That's right, it was just a speck of light. That is. Qin Wentian's heart pounded violently. Over there were countless specks of light floating in the air. Were each of these specks of light a particle world? Yes, those are all particle worlds. These particle worlds are already very far away from us. If you get closer, you would discover that they are extremely vast. But compared to the immortal realms, they are merely a drop of water in the ocean. Li Mubai laughed. Qin Wentian stared at the immortal realms that were radiating boundless light. It was as though the light of the particle worlds originated from above. His gaze shifted unceasingly, but no matter how he shifted, he was still within the boundaries of the immortal realms. Are the particle worlds above or below the immortal realms? Qin Wentian mumbled. Silly brat, in this boundlessly vast space, how can there be up and down? Up and down, they are all relative. Li Mubai laughed. Qin Wentian froze for a moment, before nodding his head. That's right, in this space of nothingness, how could there be a true direction? If the two of them were floating in opposite directions, who would be in the right direction and who would be in the opposite direction? Actually, the place we are at now, including those particle worlds, are still within the boundaries of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. It's just that we are now in the airspace above the Immortal Realms. When we get closer to the Immortal Realms, we would be able to sense the gravitational pull from the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Li Mubai explained to Qin Wentian. Azure Mystic Immortal Realms? Is that the name of this Immortal Realms? It's rumored that there are 33 heavenly layers in the Immortal Realms. Where are they located? Qin Wentian stared at the boundless starry sky. A particle world when compared to the boundless starry sky was truly nothing more than a tiny particle. Other worlds basically couldn't be seen with the naked eye. Don't think too far ahead. It's just that this world is already too vast to you. Let's continue moving forward. Li Mubai brought Qin Wentian towards the direction of the immortal realms. At the same time, he reminded, I have immortal energy and can resist the gravitational pull from the immortal realms. But you can't. As we get closer, the powerful gravitational pull will directly pull you over. Don't resist. Given your physical body, you won't die from the fall. However, I won't be accompanying you. Okay, Senior has already done enough for me. Qin Wentian spoke with gratitude. Make your preparations. Our current location should be the Cloud Prefecture of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. As for which city you will land in, I have no way to be sure. Let's go. Li Mubai spoke, bringing Qin Wentian with him as they flew towards the boundlessly vast immortal realms. Qin Wentian stared at the boundlessly vast immortal realms. It was like a constellation that spanned across the boundless void, similar to the constellations in the 9 heavenly layers. A smile appeared on his face as boundless yearning appeared in his heart. Not long after, Qin Wentian felt a terrifying gravitational force gushing over. As he got closer to the immortal realms, the gravitational pull grew stronger and stronger. In the future, when you roam the immortal realms, you have to be more careful. Go on. Li Mubai released Qin Wentian. Instantly, Qin Wentian was like a shooting star as he sped towards the immortal realms, leaving behind a trail of afterimages in the air. In the vast immortal realms, this trail of afterimages was extremely insignificant. At this moment, no one in the immortal realms knew what kind of waves this trail of afterimages would cause. The Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, the true immortal realms. In the outer space, there were countless floating particle worlds. In the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, there were countless experts and boundless powers. And among these powers, the most famous were undoubtedly those that stood at the peak of the immortal realms. One of them was none other than the Eastern Sage 13 Prefectures. The Eastern Sage 13 Prefectures were the 13 great prefectures of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. The size of their territory was unimaginably vast. These 13 prefectures all had their own names, but in the past there wasn't a unified name. It was only after the Dongxing Heaven Emperor appeared that they got their names. This place was the land governed by the Dongxing Heaven Emperor. For example, the Evergreen Kingdom, which was also a hegemonic power in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, wasn't known as the Evergreen Kingdom in the past. It was only after the Evergreen Immortal Emperor took control of this immortal empire did the name change. It was the same for the Eastern Sage 13 Prefectures. The Dongxing Heaven Emperor established the Eastern Sage Immortal Palace on the Eastern Sage Mountain. His disciples and subordinates fought for him, And after several hundred years, the 13 prefectures were unified and the Eastern Sage Mountain became the sacred ground of the 13 prefectures. Although the Eastern Sage Mountain didn't directly control the 13 prefectures, everyone in the 13 prefectures understood who the true master of the 13 prefectures was. The Cloud Prefecture was one of the prefectures and was governed by one of the disciples of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, the Idle Cloud Immortal King. There were also countless powers and cities in the Cloud Prefecture, but none of them dared to proclaim themselves as an empire. In the entire Eastern Sage 13 prefectures, not a single power dared to do so. That would simply be courting death. There were a total of 81 counties in the Cloud Prefecture, and each county had many cities. Hence, the number of cities in the Cloud Prefecture was innumerable. The Worry-Free City was one of the cities in the vast Cloud Prefecture. At this moment, in the airspace above the Worry-Free City, a beam of light suddenly appeared. It was like a bolt of lightning arcing through the air, emitting rumbling sounds as its speed was terrifying. What is that? The people in a certain location in the Worry-Free City abruptly inclined their heads and stared at the meteor-like light in the air. After which, many of their silhouettes flickered, as though they were worried that the meteor would smash into them. Rumble! A thunderous boom rang out as a gigantic crater appeared on the ground. Numerous cracks could be seen on the ground, and everyone in a radius of 100 miles could feel the tremors from the impact. As for the people in the vicinity of the crater, their eyes gleamed with sharpness as they stared at the crater, after which, they all rushed to the top of the crater and peered into it. After which, they saw a figure drenched in blood. It was actually a human. How did this person fall from the sky? Many people felt their hearts trembling as puzzled expressions appeared on their faces. This person seems to be very young. With such a terrifying speed, even if he didn't die, he would be crippled. The crowd murmured. But after which, they heard a low curse coming from the depths of the crater as the body struggled to move, causing them to be astonished. This fellow, what a powerful physique. He could still move even in such a state? Qin Wentian at this moment also had an impulse to curse. He was tricked by Sword Saintly Mubai. That fellow said that when he was about to land, he would be able to resist the force. But when he was about to land, the force was already too strong, and even though he resisted with all his might, he was still smashed heavily into the ground. Many of his bones were even fractured. This was too miserable. If he knew this would happen, he would have asked Li Mubai to bring him to the immortal realms. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, Qin Wentian crawled up and sat at the edge of the deep pit, staring at the spectators. His deep eyes flickered as he surveyed the crowd of people gathered here. The majority of the people here had a cultivation base at the Celestial Phenomenon Realm. As for the younger ones, they were all at the Heavenly Dipper Realm. Evidently, the immortal realms weren't like what one would imagine. In the immortal realms, there were truly countless living beings. After each person was born, they had to depend on their own cultivation to grow stronger step by step, generation after generation. The number of immortals was innumerable, but there would always be more experts below the immortal realm. The higher one's cultivation base was, the lesser the number of immortals. This was an unchanging rule. Oi, why did you fall from the sky? At this moment, a person walked up to Qin Wentian and asked. This person was a young man around 16 to 17 years of age. His eyes were filled with innocence and curiosity as he stared at Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian didn't reply. That young man continued. Your injuries shouldn't be light. Let me bring you back and let my old man take a look at your injuries. Chapter 743. Qin Wentian could see through the cultivation base of this young man with a single glance. He was at the 7th level of Yuanfu. Such a young man actually had such a cultivation base? Even in the royal sacred region of a particle world, it was hard to imagine. Maybe, this was the disparity between the immortal realms and particle worlds. In the royal sacred region, many people had limited talent, and were stuck at the arterial circulation realm or Yuanfu realm. But in the immortal realms, before the Heavenly Dipper realm, there would be no obstructions. Only at the Heavenly Dipper realm would the cultivation speed slow down. At the celestial phenomenon realm, one would have to depend on one's comprehension ability. There were also countless people in the immortal realms who were stuck at this level, unable to advance any further. Every single step was extremely difficult. Once one reached the immortal foundation realm, they could already be considered a hegemon in any city in the immortal realms. In fact, the majority of the kings of a country were at the immortal foundation realm. A king of a country was already a major character. To ordinary people in the immortal realms, they were lofty existences. Can your old man treat injuries? Although Qin Wentian was injured, given his tyrannical recovery ability, there shouldn't be any problems. It was just that he had just entered the immortal realms and didn't even know where this place was. Just when he was about to ask around, the eyes of the young man before him flickered with curiosity. He would definitely be extremely handsome in a few more years. My old man knows how to concoct medicine. Your injuries shouldn't pose a problem to him. The young man nodded. Okay then, I will follow you. I will have to trouble you. Qin Wentian smiled. Okay, let me help you. The young man spoke as he walked up to support Qin Wentian. He didn't seem to be scheming as he continued. My name is Qin Feng, what about you? You are also surnamed Qin? Qin Wentian started. After a moment he smiled. In that case, we are truly fated. My name is Qin Wentian. You are older than me. I will directly address you as Big Brother Qin. Qin Feng supported Qin Wentian as they walked forward. Only then did the crowd disperse. After all, Qin Wentian didn't seem to be anything special. There was no need to place too much attention on him. Oh right, Big Brother Qin, you still haven't told me, how did you fall from the sky? Qin Feng's curiosity was still unquenchable. I came from a particle world, which should be what you guys call a country bumpkin world. I was directly sucked down by the powerful gravity of the immortal realms. Qin Wentian didn't lie to Qin Feng. This wasn't a secret. There were countless particle worlds outside the immortal realms. Qin Feng naturally knew that there would be people exiting from those particle worlds. Really? Qin Feng's eyes brightened as he smiled. This is the first time I've met someone from a particle world. There are many rumors about particle worlds in the immortal realms, and there are some extremely unique particle worlds. For example, there are worlds with exceptional talent for cultivation, and many famous immortal kings have been born there. Big Brother Qin, what is your particle world like? A very ordinary particle world. Qin Wentian smiled. The two of them chatted as they walked. Qin Wentian also inquired about the situation in the immortal realms from Qin Feng. Only then did he understand how vast the immortal realms were. Just this worry-free city alone already spanned over 100 kilometers, and had a population of a few billion. How shocking was this number? And this worry-free city was merely one of the hundreds of cities in the Chujiang country. In that case, how vast was the Chujiang country? The entire royal sacred region was instantly annihilated. A single county was probably as big as 100 royal sacred regions. After all, in the Cloud Prefecture, cities only occupied a small portion of the land. Only a place with a large population and abundant resources would develop into a main city. The wilderness, mountains, rivers, and lakes occupied the majority of the land in the Cloud Prefecture. Even a single country was so huge, let alone the 81 countries in the Cloud Prefecture. The royal sacred region was merely the size of an ant when compared to the Cloud Prefecture. Eastern Sage 13 Prefectures, Eastern Sage. Qin Wentian understood what sort of existence the Dongxing Heaven Emperor was from Qin Feng. The entire Eastern Sage 13 prefectures were named after him. No wonder the Dongxing Heaven Emperor wouldn't even bother to look at an outstanding genius from a particle world. In the eyes of the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, a mere particle world was simply too insignificant. And for those who had the qualifications to attend the banquet held by the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, they were all extraordinary immortal kings. Most probably, their statuses surpassed the immortal kings who controlled a prefecture. If it wasn't for the fact that they were giving face to the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, why would they even bother to look at a genius from a particle world? And to the entire Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, the Eastern Sage 13 prefectures controlled by the Dongxing Heaven Emperor was merely a small part of it. As for the outside world, Even Qin Feng wasn't very clear about it. In his 16 years of life, he had never stepped out of the worry-free city before. Regarding the Eastern Sage Mountain and the Idle Cloud Immortal King of the Cloud Prefecture, to him, they were all extremely distant existences, akin to legends. He only heard about them from his elders. Qin Feng's dream was to become a marquis of a country, exuding awe and prestige, possessing his own army. That would truly be a major character. As the two of them chatted, they arrived at Qin Feng's residence. Qin Feng's clan could be considered a small clan. Ever since they settled down in the worry-free city, they had over a dozen generations, and had over 100 members. Qin Feng, why did you bring an outsider here? In the Qin clan, a middle-aged man, Qin Feng, brought Qin Wentian over as he asked. He curiously glanced at Qin Wentian. He actually couldn't see through the cultivation base of this young man. He should have cultivated some concealment arts. This is Big Brother Qin Wentian. He came from a particle world. When he landed in the immortal realms, he just so happened to crash into the worry-free city and suffered some injuries. I'm going to look for Grandpa for help. Qin Feng spoke to the middle-aged man. Someone from a particle world? The middle-aged man frowned. Qin Feng, don't be too naive. How can it be so easy for someone from a particle world to come to the immortal realms? Don't be fooled so easily. Uncle, it's not as exaggerated as what you said. I have nothing to gain from this. Qin Feng's lips twitched. Let's not talk anymore. I'm going to look for my grandpa. After speaking, Qin Feng directly brought Qin Wentian into the depths of the Qin clan, and came to a medicinal garden. The fragrance of herbs permeated the air, causing one's mind to feel refreshed. Within the garden, there was a young girl dressed in white who was currently harvesting herbs. That peaceful appearance of hers was exceptionally beautiful, serene and quiet. Although she still exuded a hint of immaturity, one could already see the potential of a peerless beauty. Qin, is Grandpa here? Qin Feng called out to the young girl. The young girl inclined her head. Her pure eyes gave Qin Wentian a sense of déjà vu. Her appearance bore a striking resemblance to Qin Feng, and with a single glance, one could tell that they were siblings. Also from this young girl, Qin Wentian could faintly see the shadow of Mo Qingcheng. Back then in Chu, that young girl who was only 16 or 17 years old was already publicly acknowledged as the #1 beauty in Chu. Wasn't this young girl in front of him also as pure and flawless as Mo Qingcheng back then? Is Qingcheng still doing well? Qin Wentian felt some longing in his heart. Right now he was in the immortal realms. The distance between them was truly too far. Qingcheng also surveyed Qin Wentian. She saw Qin Wentian smiling at her. His smile was warm and gentle, causing one to feel as though they were bathing in the spring breeze. Although he kept staring at her, she didn't feel disgusted at all. His gaze was different from the gazes of many men when they looked at her. There was a sense of closeness in it. Yes. Why are you looking for Grandpa? Qingcheng shifted her gaze away as she asked Qin Feng. Her voice was extremely melodious. You don't have to care about this. I have some matters to discuss with Grandpa. Qin Feng directly brought Qin Wentian away as he called out, Grandpa. Little devil, you are so annoying. Why don't you learn from your elder sister? A voice drifted over. After that, an old man walked out from the courtyard ahead. His countenance was rosy and he was in high spirits. With a single glance, one could tell that he was extremely healthy. Qin Wentian glanced at him, a 4th-level ascendant and a small clan in the city. This should be the situation in the immortal realms. Celestial phenomenon ascendants belong to the most ordinary clans. For those below this level, they belong to the lower class. As for immortal foundation experts, they would be able to become a city lord of a city or stand on equal footing with a city lord. The old man also surveyed Qin Wentian. He only glanced at Qin Wentian before he spoke. Sir, although you are injured, your vitality isn't damaged. You are still filled with energy and spirit. You are definitely an extraordinary character. Grandpa, Big Bro Wentian fell from the sky and his bones are all broken. But his vitality isn't damaged at all. Can you help me take a look? Qin Feng's lips twitched in disbelief. Okay, let me take a look then. The old man walked out, placing his hand on Qin Wentian's shoulder. An instant later, he released his grip and drew in a deep breath. He stared at Qin Wentian. Sir, your recovery speed is shocking and your bloodline is extremely powerful. I'm Qin Mu. I wonder what business do you have with me? Junior was indeed injured by accident and met little brother Qin Feng's warm invitation. Hence, I came here to seek Senior's help. I have no other motives. Qin Wentian bitterly smiled. This old fellow seemed to have some special abilities. He must have seen through his cultivation base. Is that true? Qin Mu smiled. He could see the sincerity in Qin Wentian's eyes, and it didn't seem like he was lying. Absolutely. Junior was brought to the immortal realms from a particle world by a senior, and was directly pulled down by a powerful gravitational force. I ended up smashing into the city and ended up in a miserable state. Qin Wentian smiled and shook his head. Haha, things are getting interesting. Qin Mu laughed. Sir, your recovery speed is truly shocking. Although you don't need me to treat you, this pill can allow you to recover faster. Please don't regard me as an outsider. Qin Wentian thanks Senior. Qin Wentian didn't stand on ceremony and accepted the pill. Although he also had a pill, he didn't reject Qin Mu's kind intentions. Little friend, since you came to my Qin manor first, why don't you stay here? Qin Feng, Qin Qing, you two siblings will be in charge of entertaining Big Bro Qin. In the future, don't just think about playing around and chat with Big Bro Qin. Try to learn some things from him. Qin Mu had a meaningful smile on his face. 30+ years of age and a cultivation base at the peak of the second level of celestial phenomenon. Such a character must definitely be a terrifying genius. It would naturally be beneficial for Qin Feng and Qin Qing to interact more with him. Just nice, he still wanted to find a good teacher for these two little fellows, and there seemed to be a good candidate in front of him. Chapter 744. Qin Wentian stayed in the Qin clan. Firstly, it was to recuperate from his injuries. Secondly, he had no other place to go since he just arrived in the immortal realms. Thirdly, he wanted to be more familiar with the immortal realms. On the way to the immortal realms, Swordsmanship Mubai reminded him several times to be more careful in the immortal realms. He mustn't act as recklessly as he did in the royal sacred region. Hence, Qin Wentian acted more cautiously. After all, this place couldn't be compared to the royal sacred region. Immortal Foundation experts were considered legends here. In the immortal realms, if one was careless and offended an Immortal Foundation expert, they might even be implicated. In the Qin clan, Qin Wentian's recovery was extremely good. His bloodline recovery speed was already extremely strong, and in addition, Qin Feng and Qin Qing both took good care of him. This caused him to like these two little fellows more and more. Right now, Qin Wentian also knew that Qin Feng and Qin Qing were siblings. Qin Feng was the younger brother, but the two of them were of the same age because they were twins. The background of this pair of twin siblings was extremely pitiful. Their parents could be considered extremely famous geniuses in the Qin clan. Yet they died while out adventuring, leaving behind this pair of siblings to depend on each other. They were brought up by their grandfather, causing Qin Wentian to sigh endlessly. In the martial world, many stellar martial cultivators hoped to have children only after they grew stronger. If they weren't strong enough, the chances of them dying on the path of cultivation would be extremely high. Hence, they couldn't bear to leave behind their children. In the quiet courtyard, Qin Feng was practicing his fist techniques. He was proficient in fist arts and his fists danced about in the air, exuding an aura of invincibility. Qin Wentian sat in the courtyard, watching him. Every time Qin Feng punched out, the power contained within would be extremely ferocious, causing sonic booms to erupt in the air. It was very hard to imagine that someone as handsome as him would cultivate such a domineering fist art. Big brother Qin, drink some medicinal soup. At this moment, a melodious and gentle voice drifted over. Qin Wentian, who was lying on a chair, turned his gaze over to Qin Qing as a smile appeared on his face. Every time he saw Qin Qing, he would feel a sense of closeness. This young girl had the grace and agility of a young woman, and her name was also somewhat similar to Qing Air. Qing, I'm fine now. You don't need to boil medicine for me anymore. Qin Wentian said with a smile, but he still took the medicinal soup from the other party and drank it in one gulp. Grandpa always said that to treat an injury, one must treat it cleanly. That way, there won't be any hidden dangers left in the body. Qing smiled. She also liked to converse with Qin Wentian. During these days, Qin Wentian would often pester Qin Wentian to tell her stories about the particle world. Qing would also listen by the side, feeling that Qin Wentian's stories were extremely interesting. Also, Qin Wentian always gave her a sense of closeness, just like a real big brother. I know, but I still need you to brew the medicine. I feel bad, Qin Wentian said with a smile. Big brother Qin, there's no need to say this. If you feel bad, you can just tell me more stories. Qing smiled. Although the immortal realms were very vast, that was only for experts. On the contrary, to juniors below the celestial phenomenon realm, they didn't dare to roam too far away. Their range of activity was very limited and hence, their experiences were even lesser. How could their experiences be as rich and colorful as Qin Wentian's? Hence, although Qin Feng and Qing grew up in the immortal realms, they weren't as mature as Qin Wentian when he was at their age. Sure, come and look for me whenever you want to listen. Qin Wentian laughed happily. It's a promise. Qing's smile was extremely radiant. Her gaze then turned to Qin Feng as she asked, Big brother Qin, what do you think of Qin Feng's talent? Qin Feng's dream is to become a king of a country and have his own army. Only then would he be able to protect his family. I wonder if his dream can be realized or not. Since Qin Feng has such ambitions, he definitely can. Qin Wentian nodded. Qing, what about you? What wish do you have? Me? Qing started. After that, she smiled. I wish for Grandpa to be healthy and for Qin Feng to be able to realize his wish. What a naive girl. Qin Wentian sighed in his heart. It was truly rare to see such a naive girl. Her wish was very simple. Qin Feng, the strength of your punches isn't right. At this moment, Qin Wentian called out to Qin Feng. Qin Feng halted. He saw Qin Wentian walking towards him as he spoke. Although your punches are ferocious, the power behind them is dispersed. For a truly powerful attack, one must be able to control the strength and precision of the attack as they wish. As he spoke, Qin Wentian blasted out a punch. This punch was as fast as lightning, only to see a terrifying fist wind whistling past Qin Feng's face. That fist was like a resplendent stream of light, as terrifying fist lights blasted out. With a thunderous boom, a gigantic boulder in the courtyard was directly shattered into pieces. However, that terrifying fist light didn't show any signs of continuing forward. This indicated that Qin Wentian's attacks were all focused on that gigantic boulder. Such control was simply terrifying. Big brother Qin, how did you do it? Qin Feng blinked his eyes. He didn't expect Qin Wentian to be so powerful. Training, tempering yourself 1,000 times, tempering yourself time and time again, trying to comprehend the best way to unleash your punches. After that, you will be able to verify it time and time again, achieving the desired effect. Qin Wentian continued. Hence you have to remember, training bitterly. While training bitterly, don't forget to comprehend and discard your flaws, correcting yourself time and time again. Not only that, your current cultivation base has already reached the threshold of mandates. You should try to comprehend the mandate of Fist and mandate of Great Earth. Your astral soul should be able to easily comprehend these two mandates. In the past, Grandpa also told me similar words, but I still couldn't find the gist of it. Big brother Qin, can you help me? Qin Feng asked with anticipation in his voice. Qin Wentian seemed to be very powerful. Sure, I will guide you in the future. Qin Wentian nodded. Then let me take you as my master. Qin Feng spoke. No need, I'm not that much older than you. It's fine if you just refer to me as Big Brother Qin. Qin Wentian smiled as he continued guiding Qin Wentian's cultivation. Although the Qin clan also had celestial phenomenon ascendants, in terms of comprehension, no one in the Qin clan could be compared to Qin Wentian. Hence, during the following period of time, Qin Feng's improvement was extremely fast. Every time Qin Wentian gave him pointers, he would be able to gain enlightenment, as though he was enlightened. Hence, Qin Feng stuck to Qin Wentian even more. He would visit Qin Wentian's residence almost every day. During Qin Wentian's free time, he would guide Qin Feng while Qin Qing would sit at the side and watch. Such a scene would often appear in the Qin clan, and it was extremely harmonious. Qin Mu, who would occasionally come over to take a look, was also very happy. Naturally, Qin Wentian wouldn't neglect his own cultivation. Sometimes he would go to the worry-free city for a stroll. Today, Qin Wentian heard a piece of news in the worry-free city. The largest gambling den of the worry-free city, the Amorsi's residence, would have a complete Sky Demon Oracle bone as the gambling stake. This caused Qin Wentian to be extremely moved. He cultivated the Fiend God Body Refinement Art, and the Sky Demon Oracle bone was a must-have. But in the Royal Sacred Region, he could only obtain it in powder form. Now that he just arrived in the Immortal Realms, he already heard that there would be a complete Sky Demon Oracle bone. What sort of place is the Amorsi's residence? Why is it a gambling den? In the Qin clan, Qin Wentian stared at Qin Qing as he asked. Amorsi's residence. Qin Qing's beautiful eyes flashed. After that, she turned to Qin Wentian. Big brother Qin, you can't be thinking of going to the Amorsi's residence, right? That place isn't a good place. I'm just curious. I'm just casually asking. Qin Wentian couldn't help but smile when he saw the nervous look on Qin Qing's face. That's good. The Amorsi's residence is a gambling den, but their gambling method is extremely unique. They would gamble once every 7 days, and those who are willing to bet must be willing to lose. Qin Qing explained. Every 7 days, the Amorsi's residence would take out an extremely valuable treasure, and announce to the outside world that those who wish to obtain this treasure only need to place 1/10 of the value of the treasure in the Amorsi's residence, and they would be able to participate in this gambling den. They would have a chance to obtain the treasure they released. Qin Wentian's heart stirred. This idea was extremely tempting. Let me give you a simple example. The Amorsi's residence would take out 10 immortal-ranked divine weapons. You only need to take out 1, and you would have a chance to obtain all 10. Many people would be tempted, and hence, those who participated in the gambling den would have to take out 1/10 of the value of the treasure. In this way, the Amorsi's residence would definitely profit and not lose out. After that, the Amorsi's residence would provide a fair competition for the treasures, allowing the participants to fight for it themselves. It would be best if only one of them could win. Qin Qing's explanation was extremely clear, causing Qin Wentian's heart to tremble. What a powerful method. This time around, the Amorsi's residence took out a Sky Demon Oracle bone. Such a rare treasure would definitely cause the hearts of many to be moved. At that time, the number of participants would probably exceed 100. The Amorsi's residence would be able to reap a huge profit from this. This method was simply too powerful. But despite knowing this, those people would still participate. Just like Qin Wentian, he had no other methods to obtain the Sky Demon Oracle bone. Could he give up on such an opportunity? No, this was the true power of the Amorsi's residence. Everyone knew that they would definitely profit and not lose out, but you would still fall into their trap. Big brother Qin, the Amorsi's residence is extremely powerful. Although the competition they proposed was fair, it would be extremely cruel. If one is willing to bet, one must be willing to lose. The 4 words Amorsi's residence have harmed many people. Qin Qing seemed to dislike the Amorsi's residence a lot. Qin Wentian sighed in his heart. This was simply making use of the greed of others. Although one knew that there were risks involved, it was hard not to fall into their trap. Qin Feng. A voice drifted over. After which, a middle-aged man walked into the courtyard. Qin Feng, who was in the midst of practicing his fist technique, halted as he stared at the middle-aged man and asked, "Uncle, what's the matter?" "Qin Feng, there's a good thing. Right now in my residence, there's a celestial phenomenon ascendant, who is also proficient in fist techniques. Let me bring you to meet him. If your luck is good, you might be able to join his tutelage." The middle-aged man had a warm smile on his face. After which, he turned to Qin Qing and smiled. Qin, come along as well. Uncle, I'm not interested. Qin Feng directly interrupted. You little fellow, why don't you know what's good for you? Come with me. The middle-aged man frowned as he spoke unhappily. Qin Wentian stared at the two of them with a puzzled expression. Qin Feng and Qin didn't seem to like their uncle. This middle-aged man was none other than the one who warned Qin Feng to be careful of him when he first arrived at the Qin clan. I already said I'm not going. Uncle, you can return by yourself. I'm doing quite well learning from Big Brother Qin. There's no need for me to seek help from another teacher. Qin Feng directly spoke. He doesn't know what's good for him. Who does he think he is, blindly learning from others every day? The middle-aged man coldly glanced at Qin Wentian before he turned and left. Having no parents means that he lacks upbringing. Qin Feng's eyes instantly turned red. He clenched his fists so tightly that crackling sounds could be heard. Staring at his uncle, Qin Wentian also frowned. But after all, this was a matter of the Qin clan. He wasn't clear about the conflict between both parties, hence he had no reason to interfere. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.